Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zwift Live broadcast of the WTRL Zwift Racing League, week number 2, TTT for the community. We're out here for the second broadcast of the day. This morning, APAC went out, set some crazy times, amazing times, men's and women's racing. Today, we will be covering Group 2 for the European East. There's a lot of races going on. We're covering Group 1 for the women, Group 2 for the men, and then for the West, we'll be covering Group 2 as well. So we're kind of just going down the line. We're also looking for what is the most what seems to be the most competitive. As after the second week, the pools will be turning into divisions, and we'll be looking to definitely focusing on all the categories throughout the community, but also rewarding those which are the most competitive as well. Dave, we saw in the Premier League yesterday some pretty amazing time. I went back and watched Lionel V. Austin's live stream. He had it on his personal channel, and there were 6 watts per kilograms going off the front continually in that. I mean, and the reality that they showed up with 4 riders, and then what they were able to pull off there up against the rest of the teams. It goes to show. And then BRT yesterday, if you guys didn't watch the stream yesterday, BRT, a full watt per kilogram less than the rest of the teams, but yet taking second over. I mean, that was a pretty amazing all-around event, and pretty cool to see how tactical this actually is.
Unbelievable. And, adding in Heino there and what they did, that was tactical perfection with just massive engines being displayed by all of the riders. And they're part of our family. They come from Zwift community. I thought that was really a nice moment for all of us here. So great racing yesterday. We're back. And I think that's one of the cool things, too, about the ZRL, Nathan, is that we get to race on the same courses as the pros were racing on yesterday. This is RGV, Route Grand Vitesse, high-speed road. That says it all. But, Nathan, we watched some teams yesterday absolutely blow to bits on the aqueduct.
Yeah, that was interesting to see as well.
They're still looking for pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, like yesterday, and also this morning, this too in APAC. While I was in the background doing the productions, and it was interesting to see how many teams went out too hot. They ended up with only 3 riders actually going through what we're calling the jigsaw, and they had to wait a lot. There was a lot of split ups. There was a lot of teams going. This course is difficult to keep it all together, it seems like. Also, I think there's a high pressure anxiety, a little bit of okay, we gotta win. There's a lot on the line going on here. And I think that because of that, getting a little too excited, you end up leaving some of your teammates behind.
Don't crack under pressure. We said that yesterday, and riders do crack under pressure. We have splits today coming in at 6, 12, and 18 kilometer, those 3 checkpoints before we hit the finish at around 25K today. So it's not a long course, but I tell you what, Nathan, there's just so many places. As you mentioned, the jigsaw, the aqueduct, you're not going to win the race there necessarily, but you certainly can lose it. You're going to want to do what Heino did yesterday. Don't miss a step. Never take your eye off the prize. And Nathan, for 35, 40 minutes, that is a long time to keep a laser-like focus. There's no doubt. We're going to find out who the best time trial teams are in the world. And I want to go back to where you started, Nathan. This division is absolutely nuts when you look at Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We had to just make subgroups out of this massive group, and we're kind of doing some seeding, aren't we, here? These races are going to matter in the long term more. It's not just another Saturday morning ride at the park.
No, that's really true. And we do start getting the seeding, and we do start getting the different, we'll start seeing who's going to be going up to the Premier League, or at least getting an idea of, okay, there's a competition going on here. And we talked about that in World of Zwift last week, that there's reality that there's some teams that are already starting to say, hey, we're coming for you. We saw with Wahoo Lacole. The other thing I want to point out, Vision really having a dominating performance as well as on the men's side. They're kind of showing that they're the Heino consistency we saw on the women's side of things, when it came to the Premier League. Now we're seeing in the A category for the European groups, the Vision are kind of showing up and being like, hey, we're consistent. We might not be winning the sprints outright. We might not be taking the points at the line, but we're the consistent crew, and they're right at the top.
So many folks, Nathan, in our Zwift community are sharp, and they're going to notice right away that, or the question will be, are we taking the time off of the third or the fourth rider here? Because it's going to be the fourth. We did use the third rider yesterday for the Premier League. So don't think that you're going crazy or something. It is different there. And that is really, really important, Nathan. The difference between third and fourth rider starting with five, that's a quantum leap in what you have to do out there, because it's not a big deal if you're only finishing with three. If you have to give up a rider about halfway through, that's the aqueduct, to tell you the truth, where you might see a rider blow a gasket on you. But you can't afford to do that. Not at all when you have to finish four.
We are going to jump in with VFox right off the bat here in Group 2 right now. So we do have Jeff Rooney. I've been racing against Jeff Rooney for a long time. Good to see him out on course here, as well as Ryan. I believe it's our Goldenberg, and then it's going to be Rorsted, and is that Motley? Good to see coming out of the USA. Long-time viewer as well, and friend in the world of Zwift here. It looks like they're hanging out on the new Canyon as well. So good setups they have here with those 808s or 858s. So interesting choice here coming in from the VFoxes right now.
We got a lot of drops in the bank, I would have to say. That's the Canyon Arrow Road, Nathan. So this team, I love you'd never be able to pull this off in real life. As Jeff Rooney is from New Zealand. I've got Matti Palenki from the United States. Odd Olav Rostad is Norwegian, and Ryan Goldberg is from Canada. That is extremely cool to see. Can you imagine if you had to go fly to each one of these guys' house to hand them their jersey? You'd be on the road for a few days. So taking a look at a team again with 25K in front of them here on the RGV today. They can't afford to lose a guy, but that's going to be the case for a lot of teams out here today in our community racing. So here we go, picking up, Nathan, a fun team to watch here. We'll be checking in with them later as well. Vixen Fox rolling along to 7.5K.
Yeah, and we're going to keep looking through here. Now, I'm going to just make sure we're in... hoping that we didn't make any mistakes here, but I think, yeah, here we are with Army Cycling, it looks like, as well. As they come on through, we are starting to get some time checks coming through, as looks like, is that going to be Ferocity? Is that going to be with, I'm assuming that the VFox is the Ferocity on the results list. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe Martin can help us out with some of that information. But
I thought
Dave.
VFox... Oh, so right, exactly, Nathan. I'm using Vixen Fox for VFox, but you're right. Ferocity is, yeah, I absolutely follow what you're saying. I'm going to jump back in here, though, with the team that you've got on screen, Nathan. This is Army Cycling with Craig Bickerton, Doug McGuire, Matt Dean, and then the Northern Irish rider, Simon Brummett, all rolling along. And it looks like Steph Hurst. There we go. Good job out there, Steph. So, name of the game, keeping it together, keeping it tight. Nathan, we could do an entire podcast talking about technique in the team time trial, whether you want to go single file and rotate off of the front, or do what our Australian colleagues and friends have been calling the blobs. I'm going to give them credit. Maybe that was even you, Nathan. I'm not sure. But I heard it on one of those broadcasts with Kate or Anna or Pat, and they do such a great job. So I would have to say, Nathan, I'm not entirely convinced that one or the other is necessarily better until I know more data points about your team, about how the strength is distributed, what the course looks like. It's not an easy answer, is it?
Yeah, and it's all about the Zwift craft. That's what it's really all about, and figuring out
exactly
where all of the data points hit the most. And so I'm actually addicted to the TTT now, and I am getting involved because I've got to figure out how this works. So there's a lot of different opinions out there at this point. You know, a lot of different methods are being used. The proof is in the pudding. Whatever BRT we're up to yesterday, that's what I want. You know, like whatever was going on there with 4.9 watts per kilogram average between the team, and yet the second fastest. So, you know, I think there's a reality of, you know, you got to see where people are getting the most out of their money, the best bang for the buck, really, when it comes down to what they're putting those watts in.
I couldn't agree more with that, Nathan. as you said, at the end of the day, let's look at the results that the riders are getting using the different techniques. And we're going to learn a lot every single week that we do this. One of the great things about ZRL, the Zwift Racing League, is that we go back and forth between what we call points races, which is really, it's a points race on the road. So it's different than anything we've ever really done before. And then we move into the next week's team time trial. And that's right where we are right now, picking up the Army cycling team. Again, this is a team entirely out of the United Kingdom, it's fair to say. Northern Ireland and Britain represented here in Bickerton. And this team, Nathan, I'm impressed. I really am. Yesterday, so we haven't come to the pinch point on this course either yet. That would be Chateau Saint Michel, very famous causeway there, Nathan, where you can only drive over the road to get to that castle during certain times of the day, depending on the tide. And it's just a really, really fascinating part of France that we're racing in. This world was introduced for the virtual tour this summer to much fan. How stoked were you to get out here and ride in France, Nathan?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely great that Zwift was able to create this world, and everybody is able to have some sort of experience of it. I mean, and also just having the virtual Tour de France during the time when nobody was really racing outside at all. So pretty cool. And I really like the countryside in here. This course, if you haven't ridden this course, you haven't ridden these courses, they're very calming. There's, I don't know. I like, they're great for racing, but, a lot of countryside and some pretty good KOMs. And then if you do want to go take on a monster of a climb, you can always head over to Ventoux. So there's that reality as well.
So, Nathan, I loved your comment earlier, and I obviously saw you talking about this on Instagram, about your team time trial experience and how motivated you became. As they say, the first one is free, right? It only took one before you were completely engaged, building your own team, and you can still do that out there for anybody who's watching and thinking, wow, I want to try this. Well, you can follow the Nathan model. It doesn't take long. Find some motivated friends. The real trick is finding riders at your ability level that have the same schedule as you. And then you'll find you click almost immediately. Nathan, I'm going to turn my attention to that 6-kilometer checkpoint, if you don't mind. I see you've got it up on screen in the 7:50, the fast time for vision. This is going to be, so very quickly, that EMEA, I remember when I asked, it stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. That's the zone we're in. This is East because there's so many riders. Europe has had such a tremendous history with cycling, and obviously Zwift is massive on the continent. So that's why you see that. So Vision with the 7:55, Kirchmeier, the Austrian team. This is the Angry Bees edition with the 7:58. So Nathan, they're sitting 8 seconds out, and you go another 9 seconds back to the Danish DZR Dynamite team at 8:07. And then look at this, 8:08. Foudre VS and INC Alien Resurrection, they are tied. It's very, very close out there, Nathan. I'll throw it back to you as we're in with Army as they're rolling up on 10K. So they're well past a third of the way into their ride on this 25-kilometer RGV testing ground today.
Looks like Dolphin Triathlon coming on through. They were holding on to an 8:14, so they're in the top 10 just barely as they come through the first one's through the 12-kilometer mark now. It'll be interesting to see how this starts to populate as more and more teams get out on course. Again, we're going to have the top 10 for you continually. Those are the times that will be shown on the screen. And as those times are bettered, because we still have teams that are starting out there, as those times are bettered, we will get more and more updates throughout the race out here. So keep an eye open, as we will also be jumping on around for some of the teams that are across the categories, as we do have group 2B here, and these are the first times that are coming on through for R3R ACDC, Kirchmer Dragon Bees, Foudre, as well as Tugas there, as you can see them just starting out for their 6K. And then the rest of the, there is also going to be a D group here with Wessex RCA, VSCC Bakewell, and then Nantwich and TKC Cycling Team. So those are the groups that we will be able, the divisions within this group that we will be able to bring you times and results for out there today. So currently still in with Army Cycling. Let's go ahead and jump around and see what we can find, what's going on with some of the other teams out here. It looks like NLR here coming out of Germany. I think they were actually caught, though, by DZR, because DZR is absolutely flying, I believe, out here, if I'm not incorrect, as they go ahead and make the pass through here. V Fox there as well with Rooney. I'm not sure, is that going to be the ferocity? I'm going to have to double check and see, according to the Zwift Power results, if the ferocity is the same as
it
they
is.
have. Okay, so they have opened up a pretty good gap over NLR and DZR, actually, with still a top time up in that 8:11 so far.
This is the infamous aqueduct that we're on right now, Nathan. You could not be doing a better job than this team. Very solid. So you can see and note that about 13 and a half kilometers into your journey around this course today, this is a place where I would say a third of the teams that we were embedded with yesterday, had some real trouble. The wheels come off at this point. So you could not have done a better job out there. Nathan, our colleague, OJ Borg, is he in this time zone? Is he one? I thought he was on a team called the Big Dogs, if I remember from the world of Zwift. I love being involved with that broadcast, as we get a chance to highlight the great rides from all over the world. Really looking to highlight. This might be one of them that we're looking at right now, Nathan. Is this OJ's division?
We'll have to look at Zwift Power and figure that
I'm
out,
not sure.
actually, and
Yeah,
see which
figure
one
it
that
out.
he is in. I believe OJ's in a C category. We may be able to find him amongst the big dogs. We have a little bit of a discussion going on here. NLR and DZR. There may be a disqualification here because DZR is asking NLR to back off at this point because they were caught, I believe. So I think Danish Dynamite have the right of way, if I'm not incorrect. If I may be incorrect about who caught who, but looking at the times there at 15:40 and not seeing NLR on that, well, Next Level Racing's there. They're there as well. So it's interesting to see with the catch there, who has the right of way. I'm not absolutely positive at this point. I'm assuming it's DZRs. They're asking them to back off. So
It is
we'll see what
DZR.
happens.
Yeah, and this is one of these topics that it's what would you say? Fair sport is the category. So the team that's making the catch, they're a minute up, and they do have the right of way. You know, I don't know if you cross country ski, Nathan, but it's the same thing where the skier in a time trial skiing event who comes up from behind will call track, and the gracious athlete who's in front will allow the faster skier to pass. And so to do that here, you really do. There's a technique. It's much like leaving the front of this team time trial that you're looking at here and going to the back. You sit up for a moment because the algorithms that Zwift uses to create the draft and where your avatar is moving to, you kind of need to be definitive yet subtle, right? That velvet touch. So, the velvet hammer, I should say, because again, going back to what Nathan was talking about, if you're the team that's overtaking, it's sort of on you to surge a little bit as you're making the pass, and for the team being passed to let up just for a moment. It goes against your instinct, but to do that, you get that clear separation. So you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah, that's 100% correct too. That there's just a reality that you need to give way to the riders that have the better time being put down. They have earned that by catching you, and so yeah, it's definitely and at a certain point you got to set up a rule about what's going to happen because it's just a tough situation all around, Dave.
And listen, it gets ugly when you have two teams. Nathan, thank you for that. Genuinely appreciate your statement there. And the thing that happens that's really not fun is when you have two teams that are completely cross-pollinated, and then riders aren't sure what to do. They don't want to let their team down, but they don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? So let's just make it easy. And good job. All right, everybody. So that's sort of just the housekeeping on how to make a pass on team time trial. And as always, Nathan, rule number one, respect your competitors.
Yeah, exactly. And as you do see, they did back off. It does look like
They did.
There was
That
a little
was fine.
discussion.
Yeah.
There was a little discussion for a moment. I think one of the riders from NLR got a little bit excited for a moment, and then DZR was allowed to ride away. So interesting to see. But
I'll put that into the passion of the battle, right? Like.
That's a good call. That's a good call, actually. It's essentially just they got real excited. is what and staying with this group, staying with this group. No, this is not my team. I need to leave this situation here. But it does look Vision is setting some pretty amazing times here. 15:19 currently. Wahoo Cole, they were the team with Ed Laverick and Ed Mode, 16:16. Pretty big gap back to them. We'll get them on screen here in just a moment as I haven't seen them heading into the aqueduct. But DZR, solid time from them, 15:39. Still a battle on our hands here, about 20-second difference here at this point between DZR and Vision. Right in the middle of that battle is the Angry Bees from Kirchmere. Angry Bees, so solid so far here from Kirchmere, but we'll see what they can pull off if they can hold on. As DZR, they seem to be flying in the second half here as we watch them come on through.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, these races are made in the second half, no doubt. Nathan, let's talk about how challenging. It's not the S's, right? And I apologize that I forgot the nickname that you had for this sector of the course. I heard it yesterday a couple of times.
Jigsaw. The jigsaw. I'm calling
right,
it
exactly.
There's lots of nicknames. I think there's other nicknames.
I have to stay hip.
The community. The community has a few other things that they're calling it. Probably not the nicest things, actually, with how incredibly difficult this next section coming up is. It's in just a moment they're going to take a turn, and it's either left or a right. And I believe it's the right-hand turn here that actually takes us over to the jigsaw, if I'm not incorrect. If we went left, we would hit the KOM. But instead, we should be going right and heading over toward the start-finish line.
When the Zwift Community Live censors heard that we were going to start talking about community names for that sector of the course, they immediately had their hand on the dump button, because it is rough. This sport puts you through the ringer. Nathan, you know how when we talk about what's going on out there, you can really look at it from different perspectives, whether you're the rider that's making the most watts and really driving things and the strongest rider on the team. But sometimes I look at it from the other side, the fourth rider. You know the time is coming off of you, and you're the one that's struggling in that group. A lot of times, to me, that's the real hero.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I mean, as far as the putting,
you see what I'm saying?
Putting everything you got down onto the course is what it's leaving nothing. You know what I mean? Leaving nothing out there, making sure that you've and that's really the thing about the TTT is that there is this reality of it pushes you that much more. Actually, when I got done with my TTT last week, because I was a part of a team there, I recognized it didn't feel as hard, actually. Well, people are like, yeah, right, Nathan. But no, it really didn't. It was a crazy effort. I averaged like 4 or 5, which is amazing for me right now at 40 minutes or so. And it didn't feel like a 4.5 effort for 40 minutes because I was working with these people that I had to put everything on the line for. It had so much camaraderie. So that's where I really see that point.
Yeah, okay. I love that because, I spoke with multiple riders over the last couple of days, Nathan, that have talked about in the WTRL, which is coming up on its 79th week. And I mean, the format that you're looking at, Zwift Racing League, and there's Ed Laverick, Ed Mode. But Nathan, there is no doubt that you will see multiple riders today and every day that we do the team time trial setting their new FTP. And I think that's incredibly cool. It speaks to exactly what you're talking about, that a lot of riders have never dug as deep as when they do, with the accountability of not wanting to let your team down. Whether you're the fourth, the fifth rider, or the strongest rider, everybody plays this really cool role out here. As we're picking up the Saint-Pelerin WLC team, this is Jeffers that we're in with right now. Let's take a look at these splits, Nathan. They're coming in fast and furious right now. The teams start at a 1-minute interval out there today, and right now it is Vision EMEA. That's a lot of vowels. They're in the lead with the 22:53, and it's a pretty decent gap back to second with the DZR Danish Dynamite. That was the team we had on screen a little while ago. We'll see that back-end API updating a little bit, so don't worry. That's no problem. That's very, very normal to see. Let's now go to a little more than 30 seconds is that gap, Nathan, and then you've got the Dolphin Triathlon A sitting not a minute back, about 45 seconds or so back right now. Foudre in fourth, the Next Level Racing Team sitting in fifth as we're filling in the times from that 18-kilometer checkpoint. So this is the last check we get before we bring the teams across the line. Back to you, Nathan.
Yeah, we are jumping in with Vision here. This is going to be Pettinger, Saunders, Netzer, Kurz, Baker, Wakefield, a team of 6. I think having that extra rider in there is really giving them an advantage. One extra body in there, and each rider can play a better role because of that in the team. They're really, I'm noticing there are roles amongst the TTT holding. You have to have glue out there. You can kind of see, I believe Pettinger's actually almost playing that role right now. He's gluing this pack together, making sure that things do not get away. Then on the front, Nets are pushing through, not 6.8, 6.5. Now another rider rolling through, keeping that speed as high as possible as Netzer moves backwards. But again, the glue right in the middle of it all. Pettinger does not move. He keeps the pack together. I think that there's definitely a technique here that Vision is making happen right now. They are... Saunders now, 6.8, as you can see, pushing on through here. It's his turn, but I have a feeling we're going to very quickly see another surge from another rider. So it's interesting to see this technique as they continue on at a very high speed and are walking away with this one.
It's role players, Nathan. You need not only a Michael Jordan, but you got to have a Scottie Pippen and a Dennis Rodman as well. Right? It's role players, and everybody needs to understand that role and execute it to the best of their ability. Looking at Vision right now, so this is where what you're seeing, these little tiny gaps opening up amongst the team, it's almost impossible. It's like trying to hold back the tide because of the course. This is the jigsaw. I get why they call it the jigsaw. Absolutely perfect name for this sector. You feel like you're riding around on the edge of a jigsaw puzzle piece, don't you?
Yeah, there was also the rusty saw. That was because of the way that it feels. It depends on how you're feeling on the day.
Awful. That is awful.
That was I can't remember who coined that one, but I remember somebody was like, feels more like a rusty saw. Most likely was having a rough day out there. Now we see Wakefield trying to get back on terms out of Canada. For a moment was off the back. Orange numbers being punched. Might not make it happen.
And that's okay.
6.8.
Yeah, he's back.
191.
So, Nathan, at that point, right, we're at 23K. They're not that far from the finish. If you did have to leave a rider behind, that would be an okay time to do it. You still had 5, which even means you still have a buffer. But Wakefield really fought right back. So that was, again, you take your eye off the ball for 1 second, and that's where you are, having to go into full-on Ed mode to rejoin the group. Ed mode applies to all of us as human beings, right? It's not just Ed Laverick, I hope.
Yeah,
I'd go Ed mode. You got to go Ed mode.
It's an inspiration game at this point when it comes to Ed mode. And I'm not sure we're going to be Lavericking anybody though. I think he gets to own that one 100%. But Kerr's here now coming on through at 183. These heart rates are so high. You can see exactly where these riders are at as they come into their last 1.5 Ks. Definitely putting everything on the line. All in, as you just said. Wakefield holding on to the KOM as well. Pettinger pulling through 7.3, as you can see, 462. So 179 beats per minute. Absolutely suffering. They were able to catch Dolphin Triathlon, actually. 23:46 was their time at the 12K mark. So, again, we are still in the seeding of the divisions at this point as well. So that is something to keep in mind as we come through each of these first 2 weeks. They will be separating things out more and more to figure out where people stand. Something that has been a discussion within the Facebook groups. Looks like they're dropping Baker and Wakefield. They said enough is enough. And
that's okay. They got 4.
They don't need them. They got 4.
Yep.
Exactly, Dave. And with only a K to go, really, who can pull 6? I think that's all that matters at this point.
Well, actually, it's a good sign. Those guys made a huge effort there, Nathan. I'm super. So, how many times over the last 79 WTRLs have I said, boy, if you can get a rider to give up everything about a K before the finish and just launch the team into the finale, that rider's a hero? We just saw that, Nathan. I love it. These teams are getting better and better here as they hone their craft. Vision's going to bring it on home with a very quick time. Wow. This is going to be done and dusted. And Nathan, I am really excited to see what's going to be obviously a hotly contested podium here. There's the finish line. This one is paid. Vision, you just put on a clinic for us here today. Thank you, riders.
That was a solid ride by Vision there, and I think that they're going to be having some angry bees though, right on their heels, if I'm not incorrect. So because Kirchmer was still within 20 seconds at that, I mean that's a pretty good gap at 20. At that 20,
Sure
or
is.
excuse me, at 18K. They still had
Yeah.
a solid 6 or so to work with, so maybe be able to do something here. But with that finish we saw from Vision just now, I have a feeling that the Angry Bees are really going to have something special in the tank.
Boy, they all have one of the fastest rigs out there, too. Those aren't bicycles. Those are weapons underneath these riders here. There's nothing makes me more stoked about cycling, Nathan. When I was a kid, all I ever wanted for Christmas was a disc wheel. And here we take a look.
With me, I don't, okay, so I like it in game. I'm going to have to say, though, I was like, okay,
Not
really
a
excited
fan.
about getting some no, because I'm a mountain biker, I'm a punchy rider, and the whole idea of getting into like consistent, steady, long efforts is a totally new world for me. And maybe now that I'm doing the TTT on Zwift, now
You're gonna
maybe
change.
that's going to change. Yeah, you might be right. But, I've always liked low profile, real light, really punchy, accelerates super fast. This whole like get up to speed slowly thing, and then hold steady high speed. I've never related. Now it might be changing though. It might be, there might be a reality that might be a little bit different for me now. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm loving my Mellensteins.
They just did the same thing right there, Nathan. This is another one of the world-class teams that has a really good shot. Follow this team if you're interested. I just heard over Discord, Ed screamed out, "Ed mode!" And the team just went into it. And so this is full on Ed Laverick. We have a lot of fun with. He's a super cool Welshman. And this is going to be now his team making their run to the finish, Nathan. They're, I'm going to say, about 2.5K from the line right now. So welcome to downtown Payne City, boys. This is a unit, Nathan, an aerodynamic, slippery, yet powerful unit here.
We do see the SZ team just a little ways ahead of them. I think they're getting caught though, from what it looks like. This Laverick team here, WLC, are absolutely flying right now. Real quick, we are getting some information here coming on through from WTRL directly. And just as I mentioned here, it's really important to everybody that's watching, that's a part of the racing here, that the tags are getting right. Because if the tags are not correct, WTRL has to go in and tag them themselves. And if you don't tag correctly, you can end up not being in the results. And so, there's thousands, 5,000 racers. And you got to go into Zwift Power, get your tag correct, and make sure that we're helping out WTRL. Because essentially, it'd be like putting the wrong number down. When you said, what number are you? Like, let's say you're given a race number and you put the wrong number on your back. What would happen in a race if you put the wrong number on the back, Dave? You just end up, or you put the wrong chip. You put the wrong chip on. What happens?
I mean, let me tell you, then the announcer gets your name wrong when you come across the line, and then the results are messed up, and then they have to go back and put provisionary results up, and then there's a protest, and then everybody loses maybe half an hour of their life to that. So
and imagine
do everyone
that
a favor.
150 times, Dave.
Right. Absolutely. So again, yeah, please, folks, if you would do me a favor, because then Martin's happier and then we're all happier, right? So if you would do me a favor and make sure when you put, and I'm talking to every single rider out there. You know what? Imagine it this way. If you don't get it all in there correctly, you won't get a Christmas gift this year or something, right? You just got to get it right.
So getting cold. I wonder what the across the world, if we start talking about like naughty and nice when it comes to the,
I don't think they'd get it. Yeah.
When it comes to Santa Claus and Christmas, maybe I don't know if that's more of a North American thing for the coal in the stocking or not. All you're getting for Christmas is coal. I want to know in chat, across the world. What do you get?
It sounds very
If
Danish.
you haven't been a good kid, what do you get in your presents for As you get 8.7 from Ed Maverick trying to hold on. That's what you get as he comes through. As they set a 32:07 or 08, it looks like, with a pretty solid time. It looks like coming in from the Ed mode.
And boy, look at this now. These are all the teams that have finished already. Oh boy, Nathan. So here we go. Now at this point, and again, thanks to our friends at WTRL who do such a tremendous job. My appreciation for them, Nathan, is off the charts. Here they are, the Mighty Mallards. I love this team. So these guys out of Nathan, you saw the exchange, I think, that we had yesterday with Ben Wolf races for the Hincapie team. Ben has been a champion rider. I've had him up on the podium at the Amgen Tour California, and he's working with this Mighty Mallard squad. There he is right there. Yeah. So Ben is a bright light in the sport of cycling. He's out of Connecticut. And I would have to say that they're rebuilding a new community now. You know how you have the ups and the downs with the cycling communities, and they're really getting it together out there. So to all the Mighty Mallards, thanks for picking them up today, Nathan. I love this team. Keep up the good work out there. And at 23K, they are having a really good ride here, Nathan. I'm running the numbers. This is going to be pretty darn. They're going to be right around that 32 themselves.
Yeah, they're having a solid ride here. They're catching up, it looks like, to Huntsman and the rest in that ECC team. So solid riders. They go through the jigsaw here. Great to see. This is probably the most competitive. Well, I don't want to jump the gun because there's so many groups in the EMEA, so we got to be careful there. But I did choose this one because it had the top team from what I could see with Vision from the from last week. It had the Ed mode, with Wahoo Lacole, Cameron Jeffers, this top team as well, and then we saw that the Mighty Mallards were in here, so it was just a good pick. I think Tour 2K is in here as well, so we have to watch out for them. They may be a little bit later. I'm not sure how well they're doing at this point. So, this is definitely the team to watch out for. One of the teams to watch out for, though. 30-20 at this point. Going to be tough. See what they can pull off. I believe Vision, if this is correct, came through with a 31-12 on the day. So, very close so far through for the results as they start to come in.
Yeah, and this course is going to, I think we'll look back on RGV as a nearly perfect team time trial course, Nathan. I'd love your opinion on that. I mean, it's just challenging enough so the teams have to really display good communication. We've talked how important that is, and good power, and really just everything that makes a team time trial what's so special happens out here over this 25K. You really don't need any more and any less, and you'd be shorting the physicality or the physiology of the athletes, right? You got to keep them running over half an hour for it to be considered an endurance sport event.
Now, they actually caught ECC here right at the line, and I think this is one of those situations where it's a sprint to the line at this point, and ECC...
They're going to get under 32, the Mighty Mallards here, because they're going to see the finish line really quickly, Nathan.
Yeah, this is going to be a top 5, I think, at this point. ECC, though, saying we got our sprint. Nice little kick. Nice job. Nice job to ECC. Looks like we do have Pronovost here. He put in his effort for the CNS team, but was dropped off, and that's fine, as obviously their team had a solid ride across the line already. The women's race is starting in 17 minutes from now. We are in the pens with them at this point, but I want to keep moving around here and make sure that we are seeing all of the top teams within this category here. So we will keep on moving around and see. I believe that Belgian Zwift riders, the Eagles 1, is still out on course here. We'll see if we can jump in with the Eagles 1. They're looking to try and challenge. Currently 7th overall. Look how close this is, Dave. Within about 40 seconds for the top 7. So very competitive group here.
Isn't that exactly what you want, Nathan? You know, I mean, if you want to, we were talking about when you ride within a team, how it brings out the best in you. Well, when you race against strong teams that are very close to your level, that also makes you better. So we really are hitting on a lot of different levels out here. I have to say that I absolutely love the ZRL format. I had nothing to do with coming up with it, but whoever did deserves a pat on the back. The points schedule, we can talk about that too, because these times will get converted into points that go into not only today's result. So we talk with 20 points will be for the top team, the fastest team out here, taken off of their fourth rider's time. A lot of details, aren't there? But ultimately, that goes into a bigger pool of points, which looks at the season-long total. And for our Zwift community racers, we did the Premier League yesterday. Some of these teams are fighting to get into the Premier League, and their battle has just begun, as this was our first ever team time trial. The World Tactical Racing League helped decide really to bring back this amazing format of racing, this discipline called team time trial, and I'm so stoked we do. So let's take a look, Nathan. We've brought it. That's the Belgian Eagles one team that you were talking about. Looks like they're all across the line now. I think just about everybody is home at this point.
Well,
I'll throw it back to you.
Everybody from the Fast Boys is home. And so the A category boys, they're all across the line. I'm looking through here to see if we can find some of the other teams, and this is where the tagging helps as well. I just want to let everybody know it also helps to get you on broadcast, and that might actually give a little bit of motivation for people if you tag correctly in game for what you are putting into your in as what you're registering with WTRL. It's also going to help you find you out on course actually. So very helpful for us to be able to jump around. Because if we can't find out on course and the name is different, what ends up happening is when we search for you, you just are not found. So there's a lot of teams I'm actually noticing here with in game, they don't actually have their name correctly set in game. So make sure that you're setting up correctly there, so that we can find you a little bit easier, as we do have a lot of the B cat still coming on through. I'm looking through here to see we also have, it looks like some of the D category still on course as well, just getting going. So we'll see if we can jump in with them. Still getting some of the results coming on in. I'm going to see, maybe we can take a quick look and see how those are playing out as we are waiting. It does look like we've got, I believe, a setup for results. I'm going to see if they're correct here. I think we can good. We can take a quick look at these. Dave, I'm going to throw this over to you as we go see if we can look for some of the other riders in this category in just a second here. So here's the results though for the men's A in Group 2.
As Nathan says, it's a complicated process to get to the start line and even more complicated to take the win. Congratulations to Vision EMEA. Look at that, 5.1 watts per kilo. That's the rarefied air of elite athletes. A 31.12 for the win. Kirkmeyer, the Angry Bees, will take the silver medal there. DZR Danish Dynamite, 21 seconds back in third. It's Vikings Ragnarok in fourth. The Mighty Mallards held on for a top 5 here today. Cryogen, the Col de la Loz, they're in sixth. Belgian Zwift riders, the Eagles won, finishing in seventh. Then, so interesting there. I'm going to say
42 seconds and 1:14, 1 minute and 14.
But you can see that the Vikings Ragnarok were at 48, so that would be 42 would be faster than that. That should be third, I think.
Yeah,
so I'm going to hold for a
second. Around
second.
a little bit. Looks like it's jumping around.
Yeah, you never know, do you? You never know.
You never know. That's a great way to put it. You never know. You never know. I heard that things were breaking a little bit over with ZP, so perhaps we can get some information from the man Martin and let us know, because I thought we were good to go there. But what's the saying?
It happens.
What's the saying? there, Dave? Help me out.
Well, you can either
didn't
get
do
the
it
results right now.
I didn't
You
do
can
it
either
right.
get 'em
I
right
got
now.
impatient. I was like, all right, we need something. We got to show them something. And I was like, all right, well, I'm trying to find people. And I'm like, all right, well, let's see what we can find. It looks like Dolphin Triathlon, they set it up. They got us here. Nice job. As well as two guys. We were able to find them as well, it looks like. So doing a good job with the tags out here. So with Barroso coming on in. But it looks like I jumped the gun there a little bit there, Dave.
Well, hey, listen, Nathan, I don't know if you were included in the same tweet this morning, but I totally understand because I went back and listened and I cringed when I listened to myself pronouncing the Dutch names from yesterday's racing, right? And a very kind Dutch person offered on Twitter. They said, hey, if you want a helping hand with pronunciation, just reach out. And I thought to myself, God bless your heart, because I really do. So I'm literally going to reach out, Nathan, and get on Skype and get a handle on some of those pronunciations. So, right, the learning is never done here, recognizing that I also have a ton of work to do.
Yeah, we all do. We all do, Dave. We all got a ton of work to do. Keep the work going here. It looks like two guys, they got a little bit of work left to go. You can see in the map as they're finishing up the jigsaw here, they're dropping one or two riders off. Having a good ride, though. Let's see what we can do for the current times when it comes to the two guys, boys, here as they look to finish things up. I believe we will be having some splits here coming on in. This is going to be, finishing up there, P to Z across the line already. That's going to be the group 2D.
They're jigsawing.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on here. They're finishing up with their as we look through, and this is going to be the results for this is the Bs in this group here. As I believe this is going to be the one with the two guys riders in here. I'm going to go through a couple of these just to make sure we're not missing anything. But you do see the E pen here. I think there might be confusion for some of the viewers out here. The pens and what pen they are in has no, there is no, it doesn't matter. The pen doesn't matter for what level the riders are at because everybody just finds a pen. They're separated out by category, but the pen is just a pen. It's essentially just a place to put somebody that separates people out, essentially. This is still a B rider, as you can see in their name. So as they bring in their times, you can see E next to the names here. That has nothing to do with what level that they're riding at. The E next to their names, it's just the pen that they were in order to separate riders out because you can't put, over a certain number of riders in each one of the pens. So
Kirkmeyer was an E pen team, Nathan, right? That's a good example. One of the best teams we had out here. Yeah. The Chappers looked fun. I was going to say I thought for a second when I saw them, they were on a climb, and I thought, oh, maybe I could ride with these guys. Absolutely not. They're flying here. Great job, gentlemen. Only about K&a-half. I always like to think for a second, Nathan, that I could ride with that team. Just, false hope. Never. So we definitely, I was talking about our friend OJ, who we do World of Zwift, Nathan. He's a great example of someone. I aspire to get on a team like the big dogs, his squad, because they're C's. And those C's, you're making in that over 3 watts per kilo range. And that's no joke, especially for someone coming off the couch. You got to build up to.
So I did my TTT. I did my WTRL TTT last Thursday. When are we getting a toll racing? When's toll racing happening? What's going on with that?
For a D team toll racing? Well, I would never be so vain to name the team after myself, Nathan. I'm like you. I like to be a little more low key, right? So we would be the Flaming Tigers, something like that. I'd integrate an animal because I like that. But I would have to work on it. I would want to race in the mornings, morning person. So you kind of have to fall in line with we have a pretty busy schedule on Zwift Community Live these days. So you got to, but you squeeze them in at night. I've noticed I follow you on Twitch and I see your racing is usually about 11 o'clock your time. Well, you have kids. You have a lot of things going on, business and kids. So you do it when you can. And that's the beauty of Zwift, right? As we bring home, I didn't mean to ignore you here, TR Junkies B2. This is T. Stimpson. I think they're part of the Rowan King family. They are.
It looks like
and they
it.
did a
It does
great
look
job.
like it. Yeah. The solid ride here coming from Chappers and TR Junkies at B2. I think this is going to be one of the last across the line. I think we're getting some corrections come on through. I think a few of the riders were in the wrong division or wrong pens, actually, and that's why we had a little bit of a mix-up when it came to the results there just a moment ago. So we'll get those fixed. Martin's working on it in the background. He's letting us know. We've got 5 minutes to the start of the women's racing for the EMEA. This is a fast course, Dave. I thought all the racing was gonna be right up on top of each other, but already said and done when it comes to the A, B, and C for the groups out there in the EMEA East for the men. We will be covering the West Group 1 for the women, and then we will be covering the Women's European EMEA. That is, there's just one group, that we'll be covering. There isn't a West or East. But then in the men's side of things, the West will be covering Group 2 as well. So stay tuned for that. Dave, we'll be getting the results in here, but it looks like there's definitely some top teams that are pressuring the times of the Premier League, which was fully expected, that there was going to be a reset. You know, not all these teams have a kit in game or didn't get an invite, and now they're out there looking to earn it. So let's speak to that a little bit. What's going on amongst these top teams in the community as far as that goes?
That's such a great question, Nathan. Would you rather be the hunter or the hunted when it comes to being your very, very fastest speed? Because I don't know. I think the motivation coming from that positive angle is that trying to get into the Premier League, if you don't have your kit, that's huge. I mean, that really is. That's one of the things that I was kind of, I wouldn't say surprised, but as you pull back the layers of the onion and learn about Zwift, getting a kit in game is an incredibly hard code to crack. And part of that is basically you're taking a work week for a computer engineer to write and test and create that. Zwift doesn't mess around. So by the time you get that kit in there, you have some, I would say, credibility for sure. You are really part of the community. So there's going to be teams, Nathan, that want that badly and deserve it, and they're going to earn it by getting, it's a top 2 spot, much like the English football Premier League. Top 2 teams are demoted, or the bottom 2 teams, unfortunately, are demoted, and the top 2 teams are promoted to keep that constant ebb and flow of talent and motivation. And I love that about this. We're just getting started, to tell you the truth. As Nathan mentioned earlier, in this EMEA division, there are so many men's teams that we're even kind of doing some seeding right now. But today we learned a lot, Nathan. We've now done 1 points race, 1 team time trial, and we really do move into a whole new mode, right? The honeymoon is over. It's time for Battle Royale.
Take a quick look here. Sorry, we'll get this up on the screen here correctly, but just as an idea of what's happening with the Zwift Racing League, if you're just finding out about this, you can join up. This was after the first week. This was the stats. Zwift Racing League is a collaboration with WTRL. Global league structure, 10 weeks total, 250 Zwift events, Premier Division, 6 leagues plus 6 leagues underneath that, 60 divisions in total. As of the first week, there were almost 1,200 teams. We are well over that. I was told that there was thousands of emails that came in. 500 new racers, I believe, came in the second week. So we're looking at pushing 7,000 plus racers. If you want to jump in, head on over to WTRL.racing. WTRL.racing, you can register your team to get involved. Registration, I believe, will open back up tomorrow. So that is what is happening with the WTRL. So Dave, pretty amazing what's happening with this. So many teams, and definitely want to encourage everybody to get involved. This is, one of the coolest things. The feedback has been amazing. The first week, you always have a couple of bumps and hiccups. I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened, but as far as organization goes out on Zwift, it's the best we've ever seen.
I'm blown away. 6,000 people is a decent sized city in a lot of Europe, right? And so what we're doing here is mind blowing. And I give our friends Steven and Martin at WTRL a tremendous amount of credit. Everybody at Zwift, what a crew that is. So hardworking around the globe to make all of this happen. So Nathan, on the shoulders of giants is where we get to stand to do these broadcasts, because there's so much hard work going on in the background. I hope everybody really enjoyed the racing here today, but man, we're just getting started. We're looking at the tip of the iceberg on what is a monster day. One of the most important days of team time trialing here, Nathan. This discipline was all but dead outside of rarely you'd see it in a world tour. And now I have a feeling this has really sparked something. Looks like you're down in the pen with the women.
Yeah, I want to give a highlight to how this works, because some people might be like, well, wait, there's no time trial mode for team time trialing in Zwift. And no, you're right, there's not. Watch what happens when this pen takes off. 0, end, nobody moves. And
because you wait till the first minute. Exactly, Nathan. Right.
Exactly. And so because of that, well, one rider taking off, maybe
that's
not a part. Well, okay, so part of the reason why that rider probably is not a part of a team. So the way that this happens is part of the reason that they set this up this way was because anybody who's not actually a part of the team just takes off and doesn't get to disrupt anything. They don't get to get in the middle of any of the other teams out there. So it's a great way to eliminate any issues for riders who are not a part of the team time trial.
Yeah, Nathan, thank you so much for doing this. So, all the riders were notified that now the first minute we're going to hit, and you'll see one team. I'm not sure which team that will be, but one team will all roll out at the same time. All the other teams will hang. And then the next minute, the next team will know that they have their start time. It's that 1 minute interval. All the teams will know, hey, we're at 04, we're at 06, we're at 08. And Nathan, this is something that with everything that stress and everything that goes into being a racer, these teams are all they're experienced. You can tell they've done this before. We're into the 79th week of WTRL. But Nathan, I greatly appreciate you showing this perspective. People have probably really wondered, if you've never raced one, how the heck do they do this? So these are the different pens. See all the different pens here? Nathan, would you do me a favor and scan around? Yep, there you go.
If we have a no-show, because nobody took off from
we
this
missed
pen
a minute
just yet. So I'm wondering perhaps if, or maybe it was a 2-minute gap that was set up. I mean, that's up to WTRL. So maybe at 1:17 is what we're going to be looking at here for these gaps here. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So as we wait for it, and there it is. It's going to be Fearless that are going to be the first to take off here as they take off. And it's going to be Tranter, Connell, as well as Ferocious here with a ferocious 2.7 watts per kilogram for the first little bit of kick as they head out on course.
All right. So you're going to see now this same format, exactly what we saw for the men. 25 kilometers of race, and we're out here on the RGV circuit as we're picking up our first women's team. Nathan, I'm not sure. Either a team scratched and didn't take their start, and this is the team of Danny King. Nice to see. Lithgow. So Fearless here is a team that'll be setting some nice time marks for us as they ramp it up to speed. Watch this process here too, Nathan. See how they're slowly but surely bringing it up to speed, keeping everybody together. Not one rider going so hard that this is really well done, actually. So it's that subtle application of power. Last thing you want is to, in the first kilometer, Nathan, have one rider opening up a 20-meter gap and then one rider, barking into Discord, hey, slow down, and then slowing down too much, and then the yo-yo effect. This is really great place to start the day. I'm a big fan of Danny King, the American rider here, who you're looking at right up on the front. Someone who's really embraced what Zwift is all about. During the COVID lockdown, you could go one of two directions. You could either make yourself a better person and work hard on your physical and mental health, and Zwift was such a great way to do that, or you could go the other direction, which I don't even want to talk about. Clearly, Danny was a great example of someone who embraced this.
Yeah, and I am seeing that CCC1W didn't show up, so that is a no-show. That is what happened there. So there was a scratch on the day, and that is exactly what happened. So now we are seeing some great chatter coming on through, actually. So interesting to see coming from Martin saying that there's some huge numbers coming through. Now, lots of it's funny. He loves it, and probably also at the same time is like, I don't get any sleep. I think recently I've asked Martin, when are you going to sleep? And his own words are, probably in 40 years from now. I'll be done and dusted. You know, when he's done and dusted, I guess is what he was saying. But Pizza Party now taking off. Socks for Watts chased it. Look at this team as the newly formed Socks for Watts Pizza Party, which I think the reality of the Socks for Watts brand is now really starting to take hold across the community. I think that top end team that we saw in the WTRL TTTs on Thursday has really put them on the radar. And now we see a men's side. We've seen a couple of community teams at these other levels of racing. And I think Pizza Party is part of that for sure.
You know how Martin loves data, Nathan. I'm going to ask him if he could check with Socks for Watts on how many unicorn socks have been sold since the WTRL, because that team won, I don't know, pretty close to 20 weeks so about a quarter of the time that we've held a WTRL team time trial, Socks for Watts has won. And the Choppers have won quite a few themselves as well. This is all now the Zwift Racing League, but so much of what we learned on Thursdays is being applied here. What do you think, Nathan? Have they hit 1 million unicorn vomiting socks?
I'll have to wait. I'm waiting for mine to be on the way. way. I hear that I've got some unicorns in the mail. So interesting to see what they're going to look like. I'm really excited actually for that. They're probably going to end up being my favorite socks. Now the question is whether or not I do get Watts. And now that I'm training, I think it's just going to be, which one was it? Was the socks or was it the training? We'll have to wait and see.
That hasn't been scientifically verified, by the way. That is a non-peer-reviewed. They say those socks give you Watts, but I'll let you. You know what? Positivity, right? In order for you got to believe. So I love this team, though. Again, Socks for Watts. We're joking, but we're not joking. That's a real product. I mean, they a company that has embraced, in particular, although there's a Socks for Watts men's team now, but this really was in support of women's racing. Some great athletes that have been a big part of the Zwift community. So this is a team that I think, Nathan, we could call friends at this point, part of the family.
Yeah, we are still waiting in for the men's EMEA East Group 2 results here. There's some cleaning up to do, again, on the tag side of things. So just as everybody that may be waiting around in broadcast, looking for the results, I believe we're still getting some updates coming in. But I do know that Vision Kirchmer followed up by DZR. So far, that is the situation for the top spots. With a 31-12, the Vision came through. Kirchmer Angry Bees with a 9 seconds back. DZR 30 seconds back from that. So solid times all around there, but 5.1 watts per kilogram is what it looks like it took to win. Now, interesting enough, though, the Mighty Mallards put up 5.2, but ended up in 5th place from what I'm seeing here. So that, again, speaks to the reality of how much it matters to know Zwift, know the tactic, know how the drafting works. I mean, it can't be said enough that this is not just an exercise competition, as you said yesterday, Dave.
Yeah, all right, Nathan. Well, good. Thank you for that. Really interesting, and congratulations to the teams on the podium there. Want to give a shout out to this entire squad out here. This is Ellie Eschildt, Helen Jackson, Laura Starmer, Louise Robinson. It's a well-known rider. Lucy Richardson and Mariah Brailsford making up the Socks for Watts pizza party as we're in with them as they picking up, coming up on, I should say, 4 kilometers in. Okay, so just to set the table, I had to laugh, Nathan. For the first time ever, I just got the Facebook alert that said that we are still broadcasting. So they must have something set because rarely do we go over an hour, but there is so much racing all day through the different zones that make up the Zwift Racing League. And that's part of the beauty. So a couple different ways to look at this. It's very cool that we race around the globe in different time zones that make it possible for everyone to find a realistic time to race. And also the fact that this isn't just the Premier League anymore. That might be the most significant thing of all, is that we have racing for all different levels. Nathan and I have joked about my D-level team and his super, super strong A-level team, but there's room in between that for everybody. So I think the key, Nathan, again, finding folks that are on the same page with you, good time, make sure that the scheduling works and are at the same level, and you'll quickly find yourself bonding and having a great time out here. This is the Fearless team. We watched them roll out of the pen. They were the first team out on course out here. And this is another team, Nathan, I like a lot. I know we have Catherine Connell. I mentioned Danny King earlier, Joey Lithgow, and Kara Tranter, and I feel like I'm missing one rider here. And sometimes that might be a tagging issue, Nathan. I'm not sure. I won't put it on the rider. I'll put it on me.
Well, you're most likely correct.
You know me,
Probably,
Nathan.
probably. But you know, it's it matters for in Zwift Power, actually, from what I'm told. It does help if it's in game. It does help if it's in game from a broadcast point of view. But really, it comes down to what you put into Zwift Power for your tag. So, and that is very specifically in the directions over. So make sure you always are reading directions over at the WTRL.racing. So we do have a lot of chatter coming on through. We are going to go take a look over at that. James Eastwood's letting us know. I think he may be a little bit of bias there coming from the Sox for Watts, but he's letting us know that it has been tested in the wind tunnel from what we're told, and that it does give you watts. Check the website as you can go and see that maybe it's actually on the website. Like maybe the science is over there. Maybe I'm assuming. Maybe that's too much of an assumption there that I've got. So good to see James hanging out in the broadcast here. We also got Manali Keller coming on in saying, go Aeonian, and they are out on course. We'll definitely be checking out what's going on with them. We are getting some questions about preliminary results. We will be bringing them in as fast as we possibly can. Keep the chatter coming on over to YouTube. We're also watching the Facebook stream as well. We'll keep the chatter coming in there. So all your questions, comments, let us know who your favorite teams are. We always love to see it.
I'm a big fan of Manali Keller. Not only has she been a super athlete out here, another really good example of someone that is the glue that helps keep the community together. You know, Nathan, we had that really cool, a bunch of women in the Puget Sound area, Seattle, V. Wynn and Laura Matson-Coe, who was just named to the World Championship team. Big congratulations to Laura. The surgeon out of Seattle, and V. Wynn as well. So there's a whole posse of women coming out of the Pacific Northwest, but in particular Seattle. And then now we've got the New York women as well coming on strong. So you really do find these pockets of folks that come together. And let's see what we've got now. This is going to be the Danish rider Geidesen. She's a big motor. Denmark would be another good example. Much like Ireland, Nathan, Denmark is not a large nation. Think a little more than 5 million. But boy, they have, as I would say, they punch above their weight, right? Just really not a lot of folks, but a lot of talented people in that mix.
Yeah, this Vikings team here, they've got a lot of different representations out here, and I'd love to see that kit in game all the time. So Vikings hammering away. Guidanson giving a little bit of TV time. Probably heard you out there. and having a solid ride so far. We're going to jump in, though, with the first team through at the check mark here with Stacy Murphy from Firestorm. And this is going to be the team that's coming through for the first check mark at a 9:13, hanging out in the WTRL kit, actually. So this is one of the WTRL teams on the women's side of things, having a solid ride. 9:13 set at the 6K. HDR trying to chase them down, it looks like. The next one to come through is going to be Pizza Party with a 9:02. We were just with them just a moment ago. Ooh. So a little bit of time to make up here, and that's a quick 11 seconds gain for the Socks for Watts team.
Yeah, obviously a good indicator for Socks for Watts, no doubt about it. I think they heard me make the Watts comment, and they're like, watch, these socks are going to give us an 11-second split. Let's take a look at that Firestorm team that Nathan has up on screen. Again, I love this squad, and what a mix they've got. The Irish rider, Amadus Lowry, from Northern Ireland, I'm sorry there, Mim TC is the listing. Pernille Kinnunen is there with Sarah Earls, Sophie Liu, and one American on the team, Stacy Murphy, that we're looking at right now. They have the accelerator down on the floorboard. This team is flying here, Nathan, to a little bit of a riser.
Yeah, solid time here so far. And from what I'm being told from WTRL, this is the top women's team, as Kinnunen here coming out of Denmark here is hammered away. Liu there coming out of China as well. So very international team, which is very cool to see. As Murphy here coming from the USA, 170 beats per minute, takes her pole at the front. MTC now, as well as Earls at the back here, resting up, as you can see. 4 on the front. Murphy pulling along, 41 kilometers per hour. As looks like a little bit of separation. The glue, it's all about the glue. Do not slow down on the front. Close the gap. That is what I've learned. You do not slow down on the front. If the team can't close the gap and you're slowing down, that is not the way. Now, Laurie, that's exactly it. The Irish rider here does exactly what you're supposed to do. Now, she's going to pull through. Murphy, because she had the power, she needs to shut that gap down right now and keep this speed over 45. They slow back down to 41. That is time lost, Dave. Now, it's a thin line, but they got to make it happen if they want to keep this together. And there's 4 riders back there. If they're strong enough, they need to make this. They need to close it down. Now it's back down to 41. That is time lost right there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, not ideal. It sure could have been worse, though, as it looks going to just rain that all in there. That's pretty good reaction, all in all, to what, Nathan, it gets to be painful to watch when that continues on for more than 30 seconds. There's a reasonable amount of time to make a correction, and they have done exactly that. So good job, WTRL Firestorm. I like this team a lot. It doesn't get any more international than that squad. Nathan, as I'm taking a look here, I have a feeling Aeonian's on a good day today. This team has really been doing their work. They're motivated. This is a new squad. Aeonian, I looked the word up when the team was formed, basically means think eon, think long time, think in for the long haul, right? A commitment. And I'm going to be looking for a really fast time from that team today. They've got a squad that's going to be competitive week in, week out, that's for sure. So we're going to be taking a look again at Earls. Now, they got it back together, Nathan. So lickety split.
Yeah, and we are seeing, it looks like 9:13 coming from them. Now, look at this time, though, coming from the Atomic Kittens.
Wow.
They are going nuclear out on course here. What a ride here from the Kittens. And ferocious and nuclear is what I'm going to be calling them. BRT, I'd like to get in the chats of BRT's, whatever they're doing, they've got the secret sauce, it seems like, here, because they have obviously done their homework as they show up week in and week out recently, especially in the TTT here. We saw it yesterday. Now we're seeing it here today. We saw it this morning as well. I think BRT has figured something out. I think that whoever is the brains behind these BRT teams there's some sort of group chat saying this is how you run a TTT. They've cracked the code a little bit here because they continue to dominate.
Yeah, I would like to sit in on one of their team meetings, that's for sure, or a team practice ride. A lot of teams are doing that now, Nathan. The WTRL is not a practice race, believe me. It's full on its own entity. But teams that had never done a team time trial before were able to find their competitive edge out there racing the last few weeks. And we're going to take a look at these splits here because look at this. That's really cool to see. Socks for Watts. Best damn socks in the world, I have to say. It's the polka dot bombs are going to slot in just in front of their sub team. They're under that same umbrella, their pizza party. So, taking a look at the splits, we'll have 6, 12, and 18K. We'll get a snapshot of the race at those points. As Nathan mentioned, the BRT Atomic Kittens are riding out of their skin out there right now. We're in with the polka dot bombs. You can see them in that blue jersey here. A couple Tron bikes in the mix. And the polka dot bombs are now moving into fourth because we're updating Aeonian. Boom. 8:36. They are in fuego, Nathan. So Aeonian backed up my prediction there. They are crushing it out there.
Ionian race team taking down the Atomic Kittens so far. So, but there's a lot of racing to go yet. They're 18.1 to go. That's only 6K in. Going out hot. Could be interesting how this plays out here. Again, RCC Women A, currently 10th. AHDRL Arctic Rollers. Viking Valkyrie there, 913 tied up with the Firestorm. Then Z Sunrise there, just a little ways ahead, 5 seconds. Socks for Watts, 4th and 5th currently. As we got another time coming in, it looks like. Now Socks for Watts, what? TF there coming on in, though, with an 839. There's so many Socks for Watts, I don't even know what to do here about it. Like, they've got another team out there hammering away. Let's go ahead and see if we can find them as well. But Aeonian coming on in 3 seconds faster currently.
Yeah, this is, again, Socks for Watts, we're talking about them a lot. They deserve it, don't they, Nathan? I mean, they are investing in women's racing, women's sport, women's community. And for that very reason, I love to support the companies that support the athletes that make the show. And it's all that circle that we talk about. So this is going to be then the polka dot bombs. We're going to look then. I think we've filled it in, and we have. And I tell you, not all that bad when you look at that 836 out there with Aeonian, because there's some teams that are very close. Socks for Watts, the Watt TF team, is only 3 seconds back. You go 12 seconds back for the Atomic Kittens. This is going to be a battle royale because they are tied. We haven't even mentioned, or I haven't, Nathan, SWW Veuve Clicquot, 848. They are deadlocked there, so tied in third. Again, as Nathan said, this is 6K in. We're going to find the teams that were maybe getting out in front of their skis a little bit here, going out too hard. We'll see, because
It's
somebody
really close.
is going.
It actually is really close here, Dave. All sub 9 there in that top 5. Socks for Watts polka dot bombs there, 855. It's only a 20-second gap here. They've got a lot of racing left to go. So it'll be interesting to see, but very, very close racing still. BRT, plenty of time for the Atomic Kittens to bring that back. Only 9 seconds there for the Socks for Watts Watt TF there. So, but Aeonian here, Daniela Estrate, that's the name to watch out for when she takes the polls through here. We're also seeing Jamie Lee Wright. That's a name that you know. Frisch, Cassius, Yax there is on the front there, and she is 5'4", 5'7". There's the gap. We need the glue. Where is the glue? Keep the speed.
This team will bring it right back together here. Boy, it's so subtle for Yax here. And there you go. This is what happens now. So this is the danger moment. The alarm would be going off. Red alert, because we just need to get this thing back together, weld it back together, as I've said probably too many times. But here we go, taking a look at a team that is absolutely flying and showing you how hard it is.
There it is, though, Dave.
So
Look
Barbara, yep, they're good. They really are. Aeonian is the team, Nathan, that I was saying is my pick today. I love what this team is all about. Daniela Estrate, racing out of Romania. I would say week in, week out, one of the most consistent, strong racers that we see. Barbara Frisch there, the Argentinian. Jamie Lee Wright, who is now living in London, and another one of the great stories that we have out here. She comes back from a major car accident over a year ago to now be hitting it in this team. Well, you're looking at a team absolutely flying right now, Nathan. Again, Barbara Frisch moving onto the front, a big engine right here.
Yeah, and real quick here, Dave, did you see the glue though?
Absolutely.
The 41 it was 41 kilometers per hour that they could have went back to in order to shut that in order to close that down. But instead, we had a rider who in Frisch actually who said, "No, it might not be my turn, but I have to close this down to keep the speed." So instead of Yaks backing off and taking the speed down in order for them all to come together, which then, as soon as the pack came back to her, they would change their speed into the sticky draft to what she had in the front. Instead, Frisch played her role to glue it all back together, to weld it back together, as you would say there. What I would say, coming from a Zwiftcraft gaming perspective, that's your tank. That's your steady rider that's just going to hold the watts down, make sure the speed is high, and continues to play that middle role in the middle of all of these riders here. So as you can see, 5 minutes ago, to the start of the men's racing. We just got the notification coming through. So in about 5 minutes, we'll head on over there in another. Don't worry, we're not leaving the women. We've got this one up here, but we're in the pens with them in another Zwift. So 5 minutes to go for the men's West Group 2, just as a heads up. But back to the tactic here. I think that this is part of what people are figuring out here, that there's got to be 1 or 2 riders that keep that speed high while you have this acceleration that you see coming through from Estrate here. Now, she'll get a little bit of gap. Wright's job, close it down, keep the speed high.
You're looking at a clinic being put on right now. Nathan, I wanted to correct myself. I have struggled with flags recently. The Northern Irish and the English flag have caught me out. And then I called this flag that you see for Jamie Lee Wright, I called that the Bermuda flag. I don't know if you remember that. You probably don't, because it was just one of a zillion words a couple of weeks ago. But that's the Guernsey flag, which is a little island nation there that is the home for Jamie Lee Wright. This is one of the great things about Zwift. You learn something every day as well. So one of the ways you can find out information is going to zwiftpower.com, and you can see a lot of what's going on. And that's going to be Daniela Estrate, the Romanian rider that we're looking at. She was a big addition that really got the ball, I guess you'd say got the wheel rolling for this Aeonian team. Wouldn't you say, Nathan, when they brought on Estrate is when we really started taking this team seriously? I always took them seriously, but when I realized they had a lot of potential.
It's a big pickup. It's a big pickup because Estrate is premier level. That's just reality. She has raced amongst all those women in the Premier League week in, week out for a long time. And obviously, Aeonian were one of those teams that was like, reset button, no kitten game, we're going to earn it. We're going to get out here. They have their eyes on the prize, and they are aimed directly at the top level. I know Aeonian. I know they've got big aspirations, and picking up Estrate was a part of that. Frisch, Wright, these three working well together. They're going to need that 4th rider, though, for sure. Cassius needs to hold on. No, Cassius off the back, actually, so it's going to be Frisch, Estrate, and Yaks. They're the 4 that are going to go to line because it looks like Cassius, she's done her work, done and dusted, and Estrate here now continuing on. And you can see when Daniela went to the front over the top of the Queen of the Mountain here, that's when things started to separate a little bit, and that's the level we're talking about.
So they are just past the aqueduct as we're still in with the Aeonian team. Nathan, when I first started reading about the structure of the league and the Premier League on Monday and our community leagues and all the different time zones, there is a lot to digest. And now that we're starting to identify the teams and the levels, this is a great example. I would say like Wahoo Lacole in the men's. This is a team that's going to absolutely, I wouldn't say pretty likely because that's not fair to their competitors, but I would say a team that is absolutely going to be part of the conversation of the teams that will get just what you said, that coveted in-game kit and advancing up into the Premier League.
That would be a fun. A lot of teams, though. I mean, 100%.
That's what I'm saying.
I would put
it's
them
no
in a
guarantee.
list. I put them on a list, but that list is growing for competition.
Yes, sir.
And these seconds that you see between them right here, every one of them matters throughout the entirety of this season. Whether or not you get an in-game kit could come down to 10 seconds on one of these races. That's the reality. 1 second even on one of these races could be the difference in the points as to whether or not you make a Premier League. So the competition is fierce out here.
It could come down to a tenth of us. I'm just kidding. um, so Aeonian in with a 1647. I'm lucky to have a colleague like you, Nathan, that has a sense of humor. A 16, because then you would have said it could come down to 100th of a second, right? So 1647 for Aeonian. There's the fastest time.
We saw it the other day. We saw it the other day.
We did. We do. We see it all the time.
After over 200 in real life, we saw it just the other day. Over 200K of racing, we saw Wout
Flanders
versus So there, and then it was literally a tire length after that. I mean, It happens all the time in any kind of sport. At the highest level, it always comes down to minuscule percentages because there's a limit to the human body, and how far you can push your talent. That's what it really comes down to. We're looking for the highest level of Zwift racer in the world right here. That's a part of what we're celebrating in sport, is looking for that form that we're trying to pull out of the human body. And that's what we're seeing here from these women, from these men out here competing against each other to see who's the best. And look at this. Who went out too hot? That was one of the questions. Socks for Watts. Watt TF here. 7 seconds. They've pulled some time back. We saw 8:39, but it looks like they're starting to really stoke the engine there with a 7-second difference now. They've pulled 20 seconds and took a lead.
Well, let's go ahead and run some numbers for you here. Nathan obviously has the headline nailed. Socks for Watts turning the tables. 1640, the fast time at 12K. That's your first check here that now we're seeing them in the lead. Aeonian moving into second. They're 7 seconds back. We're going to go to a full 20 seconds.
I had no idea.
Yep.
I had no idea that this was what this team was. Oh, my gosh. This is a monster team. Okay, this makes sense now.
I'm
Rachel
going back,
Elliott,
Nathan, because
Lindsay Duncombe, Baldy, good. Leah Thorvaldsen.
Claire, good.
This is a
premier
dynamite
team. This is a premier level team. Every one of those names is a rock star. That's going to be Lizzie Duncombe there, the triathlete, getting ready to see if she's going to go to Portugal to do an Iron Woman there, or I guess they still call it Iron Man for everybody. But Rachel Elliott, Nathan, what more can you say about Rachel Elliott? Is there a bigger legend in the racing world of Zwift? Does anyone know Zwiftcraft better?
No, I would think that, Rachel Elliott's the most experienced by far. Well, I wouldn't say by far.
Anna might.
At this point,
Anna
Leah
knows her
Thorvaldsen is, also in that conversation for long standing, especially being the first Zwift Academy winner. So there is that reality as well. But having Elliott and Thorvaldsen on this team, and then Duncombe, though, she's really been the instigator in a lot of ways for getting this Socks for Watts moving as far as this brand goes into the Zwift world as well, doing some recruiting. And you can see now taking a pull at the front, 5.3 watts per kilogram currently coming from her as Duncombe looks to take them through for their second half of this race. And I have a feeling they may start to walk away with them. But Aeonian right on the heels, 3 seconds. This is a battle. Great battle to watch play out actually here.
I'd like to explain, Nathan, really quickly, that back-end API will adjust. So it's not you thinking, what? I just read it differently. No, that will change a little bit. So, okay, folks, this is the race of the day. Nathan, remind me on World of Zwift to bring this one up, okay? We got to tell OJ about this because this is going to be as good as it gets, folks. I would even say, if you know folks that are interested in racing, let them know that we got ourselves an absolute Donnybrook going on. So I want to make sure you understand who the real gladiators are, who the next level riders are in this platform. So you heard us. So there's multiple, I think even 4 Socks for Watts teams out on course right now. I want to make sure that we get this one right, which is the WTF squad. So this will include the Welsh-based rider Claire Good, We also have, so you mentioned Cassie Baldy, Nathan, super strong rider on this team. We have Leah Thorvaldsen, the original Zwift Academy winner. I know Zwift Academy is up and rolling right now. That's tremendously exciting. And Leah has been one of the best ambassadors that Zwift has ever had and continues to be a super strong racer. She raced for Canyon for a couple of years in Europe in the Pro Tour. So Leah Thorvaldsen, we love what Leah's all about. We mentioned Lizzie Duncombe. We mentioned Rachel Elliott. Nathan, I feel bad, but I think I got them all.
Millie, KMC, Millie, coming out of Guildford,
Thank
England.
you. Boom.
Guildford,
Got it.
England?
Good
She's
job.
a Great Britain age group triathlete and road cyclist, it looks like. A little bit newer to Zwift. She's a level 14, so I think she's a pickup. Most likely, being from the triathlete world, I'm not going to be surprised if this is, in real life friend or in some way known from Lizzie Duncombe. I wouldn't be surprised, but solid. It looks.
I was just going to say. I was going to say an FOD, a friend of Duncombe.
Exactly is what's happening there. 180 beats per minute currently. Good to jump into the team, though. So it's going to be 6 still, 17.6. But the Atomic Kittens now taking over the top. Well, not the top spot, just first through. As they come on through. But with that 17-16, I don't think that's going to be coming close to challenging the 1640. But Aeonian versus Socks for Watts, this team is going to be the question. But the Atomic Kittens there coming to the line at 25.54 is what they're looking at right now.
I got to shout out Cryogen Stelvio here as well. I mean, take a look at that. They're only 11 seconds behind Aeonian there. They are still in the mix. Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves what should be one of the best team time trials that we've seen in a long time. These are super strong teams. They are engaged in battle. We are locked and loaded. This is not a drill. Big time bike racing is back. The ZRL in full effect. And Nathan, this is one of the teams that's in the hunt for a big win. Boy, you get this gold, you really earned it. I am stoked here, Nathan. So, okay. Now, remember that just because you see Aeonian popping up first here doesn't mean it's the fastest time for sure, because they're all starting on the 1 minute intervals. Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you as we see a 25:08, by far the fastest time at the final checkpoint before we have them at the finish line for the time that really matters, your finishing time. But at 18K, Aeonian, 25:08.
Yeah, and this is going to be Aeonian here. This is Daniel Lestrate pulling along, 5.3. They're going to be watching the time splits. 25:08, they know they have the fastest time at this point, but will they be able to hold off the charging Socks for Watts is going to be the question. BRT Atomic Kittens a little ways off, as you can see there, 25:54. Not going to be able to hold on, but the battle, as you said, was between that Socks for Watts, as well as I believe we've got a couple others trying to get involved in this conversation, but really I think it's going to be this 3-second gap that we see between Aeonian and Socks for Watts here at this point. So who's going to take it down? It's going to come down to this final 20 seconds now. They went out slower than Aeonian, obviously. Aeonian maybe overcooked it just a little bit as they dropped off one rider about halfway through. But as you can see here, Socks for Watts now, they're just ramping it up, and I think they're just going to keep stoking that fire and continue on with opening up that gap.
You can see up in the upper left-hand corner, of course, this is what we call the jigsaw that they're entering into right now. And it doesn't really require too much explanation when you get that view of it. It is really twisty through this sector. And it is easy for the teams to let little gaps open up here, Nathan. We've seen that happen quite a few times. Exactly what's happened to Aeonian here. So you are deep in the pain cave. As a matter of fact, you're wandering around. It's cold, it's wet, it's dark. You've got a flashlight. The battery's just died. It's brutal at this point in the race. It's dark, let's say, as you start to have that tunnel vision closure. If you have made a complete and thorough team time trial effort, you will literally start to have tunnel vision. I mean, the taste of blood is laughable. That was more like 20 minutes ago. Now it's your brain starting to shut down because this effort is insane. Nathan, they're down to about 3K to go. We're still embedded with Aeonian right now and Daniela Estrate. is the rider that we've got, but this team is down to 4. That's important to remember, that now they have nothing left to give. All 4 riders matter here, so we're locked down.
Yeah, and it looks like Estrate at this point, as well as Wright. Little bit of work here coming from Wright. We'll see if Frisch can take over, but this is where you start having a situation where riders are just hanging on. They might not have a whole lot left. You start hearing riders in Discord go, I gotta take a break. I need to skip.
Yep.
I need to skip. And then another rider who's just put everything on the line goes, okay, fine. Can I hold on for another minute? I'll go to 31. I'll go to 32. You start hearing, okay, I'll give that extra, but that extra match burn, that extra energy put out there, you can only hold on for so long. Frisch now comes on through, and I have a feeling we've got Frisch and Estrate at this point. They're the ones really, I think, taking a lot of the pulls, perhaps. Now we do see them looking for reprieve almost as it backs off.
Yeah.
Right now, heading to the front. Frisch now trying to get a little bit of extra effort, but I'm not sure there's a lot left in the tank.
There's no quarter asked for, and there's no quarter being given out here. Nathan, that Sox for Watts team, if we jump back in with them, I think you're going to see possibly 6 riders still together. They now really have a huge advantage because it's 6. Okay. Well, I mean, you can talk about all the metrics all day long, but the data point right now is you have 4 massive engines, and they are absolutely pinning it. The accelerator is down on the floorboard. It's been duct taped there, and every woman is standing up and doing her job on this team. This is an unbeatable squad at this point, Nathan. They're carrying 50 kilometers per hour through this sector. They're about to go into the jigsaw. Now, Nathan, watch this. This will be a tactically brilliant performance, or I should say, it's not tactics anymore. It's skill that we're talking about, an incredibly high skill level. Watch how these ladies don't let a gap open up in the group. Again, you start with 6. They have 6 together. They might be the only team with 6 together at this point in this race, Nathan. Does it get better than what we're looking at right now? This is a command performance on the ZRL.
24:51, 25:08 coming in from an Ionian. Then look at Cryogen. Good to see Cryogen getting on the board here later in the racing. And they took over that 3rd spot with 7
They just
to
moved
go.
into 3rd.
Yeah, and so as you can see, big time gaps between when people start, when each one of these teams starts. They still have plenty of racing to go. Sox Watts, 5.8 to go. A K&a-half behind them. That's the Cryogen stuff. They are in the hunt here for that 3rd, but Sisu, I Race Like a Girl's out there, 8.1. They just jumped on the board. They're only 1 second difference between SWW out there as well. So still plenty of teams to come through, still able to get those top 10 spots as we get updates from the teams that have been seeded last out on course.
Wow. Look at this masterpiece being put together here by Sox for Watts W2F. So, Nathan, as you review that final checkpoint here, the story is, and we kind of do let the back end API settle a little bit. And I think that split at 17, it's going to be surprising if it doesn't go over half a minute here. You're watching the best in the business here in the Zwift community doing what they do oh so well. So, again, this team is, Nathan, when we when we realized who we're dealing with here, they're going to go ahead now, remembering that time taken off of the 4th rider here. I don't know that necessarily all 6 are going to finish together here. It doesn't matter, to tell you the truth, as they're down inside of one. Yeah, it looks like they're going to have 5 at this point, Nathan. Claire Good is going to rejoin the Welsh rider. She's a fantastic climber when you talk about Good. And yeah, just watching this team getting every last drop, every last watt out of those socks is a good way to put it. Never said that before.
We have some results starting to come in as well. As you do see the red flag next to Sox Watts Pizza Party. If you're wondering what some of this stuff means, that means that team has finished now at this point. So we'll go ahead and see if we can start seeing what the times were as they do come in. We'll wait a little while and see if we can start pulling up what the times are as they do come in. But Sox Watts Pizza Party across the line. We'll see if they can hold on to a top 10 out there today. They did have the Polka Dot Bombs chasing them, as well as Vikings, Valkyrie, and Z-Sun. As we have more teams coming through their check marks, they're starting to get pushed down that down the top 10 list here and maybe out of the top 10, as we do have teams like Cryogen and Sisu I Race Like a Girl trying to challenge here. Now we have a couple more coming across the line. Polka Dot Bombs, Vikings, Valkyrie have also finished. So as soon as we get the reality of those finish times, we will start bringing them in for the results. We continue to look at Zox Watts. This is the the right-hand turn into the final jigsaw. And we're going to see a ramp up here, I think, that is going to be very impressive here. 50 kilometers per hour currently coming from Rachel Elliott on the front as they continue to just kind of surge into and this kind of just turns into continual lead out from the teams, a lot of times. And look at this. Thorvaldsen, I think, has a broken heart rate out here. She's beaten supposedly at 221 beats per minute.
Wow, that's yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, it won't be much longer. We'll see that heart rate go down here as they are now into the home stretch. I'll be stunned if this isn't our gold medal ride here today for all the chocolates. It's going to be Lizzie Duncombe bringing them home. Well, Lizzie looks like she's got her form pretty well dialed heading into, if they have it down there in Portugal for that Ironman, and she's going to be the first across the line. As nice job, ladies. Let's see if let's go right around 33:27, a rough estimate of their finish time, something to look at. Aeonian, the one team in, really challenging. But Nathan, I think I love this Cryogen team. Again, never can give too much love to Cryogen, as they have been a pillar in the community out here, having a tremendous ride. They're deadlocked there at that last checkpoint with Sisu I Race Like a Girl, another team that has just some really great momentum going for them right now. That's the real race right there, Nathan, for the bronze medal. Who's going to pick that one up? I think Aeonian. They're strong. They've got depth. They should be able to hang on for a second, but you never do know, as this is going to be Sisu. We're picking up Catherine Curie here out of Northern California, as this team is in hot pursuit. Back to you, Nathan.
There was a little bit of separation there with I Race Like a Girl. I wonder if they waited up there. Pamela Vine got back on terms. Rose is there as well. I think they were trying to decide whether or not to let Roberts go, and they did through the jigsaw here. Still with 5, it looks like. Is Newsbomber riding for them today from Team Type 1 family? Perhaps jumping in? We'll have to wait and see. Or perhaps they picked this rider up while they're out on course. But definitely a solid kick here coming from Levine.
She's on the team. Yeah, gotcha. Just I think, Nathan, so again, I learned so much every single race we do, but she must have just not changed her kit or changed her kit back for some reason there. But either way, good to go as we pick up here. D Rose, single file. It's funny, Nathan, I would have bet dollars to donuts or pounds or euros to donuts.
They are suffering,
yeah,
Dave. Look at this. I mean, this is every ounce of effort to hold on to this third spot because Cryogen is 1 second up. They need every bit of speed right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you just cannot give any more than these riders are. I love this part of the sport. So right now you might be saying, oh, look at these avatars. Well, there are some women that are absolutely burying themselves right now. Nothing will get more out of you as an athlete than working together with 3 teammates to try to get up on the podium at a significant race. There is a lot of credibility that is earned by riding onto the podium here. This is what it's all about. Team time trialing at its very, very best. Nathan, you nailed it. These ladies have given everything out here today. They come around the bend. They're going to see the finish line. They're just a few hundred meters away from having the pain end. When you're going through hell, keep going. You're almost there, ladies.
Almost done. Curie, they're dropping off, but they just have to go at this point. Really, Newsbomber has to kick. She got to kick to the line. Rose 7.2. Good sprint coming through from Catherine Curie as well. Every second is going to matter. We're going to go back to draft here from the Draft ZRL Zwift Racing League. Good team. This is going to be the final team, I believe, out on course. There might be one more behind this. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure that they're going to be in the top 10 here. 35.50 is what they're coming through. 34.21 or so is the battle that we're looking at, right around a 34.21. So it's a little ways outside of well, they may be able to hit a top 10. We'll have to see what draft can pull off here, but I think they're going to be just outside of it here as we look at Suzanne Collins as well as Maylena coming to the line. Now, I do want to jump on over and let everybody know this is also going on as these women cross the line here. And this is the men's race that's happening right now. And Tour 2K Callis, they actually were not. They started behind the team we're looking at here right now with Speed Hub and the rest, caught them and went flying by. This is going to be the men's EMEA West race that we are covering out here today. Canyon Dev is out on course. Tour 2K is out on course as well. We'll get updates on the splits here momentarily. I'm getting updates that Zwift Power is having an interesting time. That's what we'll say. Again, we are having an amazing amount of riders come on through. Hopefully, I am hearing that there is some background work that should be done by next week, and we'll have a little bit more structure to handle. I think some of the amount of racers that are all in races that are coming through all at the same time. So, but Tour 2K having a solid ride. We'll see if we can get the updates on the times. On the women's side of things, we'll get updates on the results momentarily. I do believe we still have some women out on course as well from some of the other divisions in the or other pools that are out there. So we'll see if we can jump in with them. But Tour 2K, this is currently I think the hot team out on course for the West. But Canyon Dev, watch out for them. There's quite a few teams actually in this men's West that we're going to be looking to. I think Restart is in here as well. So this is going to be a very hotly contested zone as well.
So as Nathan says, I think we're going to hold on results for a moment. I file it under a good problem to have, right? There's so much interest and so much data being generated. As when we were looking at those numbers earlier, the one that stands out to me the most, Nathan, is that we have 6,000 individual racers. And that's actually, it's more than 6,000 now, racers that are taking part in the ZRL. So they... the results, it's always good, as we've said, to get them up correctly. So we're going to make sure that we do that for you here as we're in with Hutchings right now, Tour 2K Callis, a Norwegian-based, well, not entirely Norwegian. I see a British flag popping up there. Or even Norwegian at all, to tell you the truth. As we...
As they head on over the aqueduct, we've got Thomas, Revel, Hutchings, Brown, Jones, all making their way over the top here. It looks like Chmielewski unable to hang on. Obviously, crazy pace. Maybe that was part of the tactic. As Thomas, though, blows things apart for this team. Now, this is a smart tactic, though. You want to take speed and a big kick into the downhills. It really can do a huge favor for the team as long as everybody can hang on, because if you hit that 57 super tucks and a little bit of reserve of energy, if they can get that into any of these negative 3%, they will hit a negative 3% or more here for just a moment. Boom. Super tuck would help at this moment for a few of the riders if they can get into it, but they also carry a ton of speed downhill as well because of those kicks. So Hutchings here pulling through. Look at this mob at the front here, the way that they're riding this. 189 beats per minute. So solid 5.2 plus continually as they push over the top there. Even at that 7 watts per kilogram, though, over the top of the King of the Mountain, as Thomas holds down that jersey currently for the leaderboard as well.
So it's funny, there's single file style and there's blob style, and then there's blob light style. These guys kind of use a little of both, don't they, Nathan? Well, at least in the last couple of kilometers that we've been watching, you can see that they do. I mean, here's a good example now, kind of getting close to the single file formation again. But again, different teams have different techniques. At the end of the day, whatever team gets over that line the quickest is the one that won the race, and that's where all the respect should be going. It's not who does it with the most grace in this case, although that certainly is a part of it. All right, we're going to jump around. This is the IRL Naga Bomb team, the Irish boys. They're not stalling the beans, Nathan. I love seeing these green jerseys. I bet you Ireland is seeing a lot of love for its cycling community with Sam Bennett's green jersey at the Tour de France this year. I always love our Irish riders out here. So the Nagabums looking strong here. This is Tommy E that we're picking up. They're about midway, a little past midway out on the RGV. 25 kilometers of racing here on this course. They're just past the aqueduct.
Yeah, we're still looking to get splits on this Group 2 for the EMEA, I believe. We'll see how quickly we can get them to come on in here, as I believe we're having just a little bit of struggle at this point. So just as an update, everybody, the Zwift Power is struggling a little bit at this point. As the data does come in, we will bring the splits in as quickly as we possibly can, as well as the results. So just a little bit of patience will be needed, though, from everybody while we wait for those splits to come on in, as we're covering the Zwift Racing League. Solid times, though, so far. It looks like really Tour 2Ks who are in with, as well as the Ireland Nagabombs. Tour 2K, they were one of the teams we highlighted in the World of Zwift this past week for good reason. They were sitting in the top 3, I believe, after the race. So solid ride from them, and they look to be absolutely flying out here today. You know, I had a feeling that this team had some pure power, and you know, you watch a team and you watch their aggression, and you're kind of like, wow, like if they could tactically play that out, they would have some amazing results. Sometimes they just have a lot of power, and then tactically it doesn't just work out. And that's what I felt about this Tour 2K team. We'll see what they can pull off here today, because I have a feeling they're having a solid time. I might eat my words, but I have a feeling they're going to be in the top 3 here. We'll have to wait and see. As we also do have the Canyon Dev team, though. Here comes Velez, Bayam, it's going to be Kaminsky, Drugmans. And this we saw a very cool highlight for Canyon Esports, as well as that shout out to their dev team. Reese Howell doing an amazing job for esports, really focusing in on this. Up to 2 years ago, they were chatting about and launching esports teams. So very cool to see their investment in the future of this sport as well.
And this is the team that absolutely dominated, correct, in last week's race. They were phenomenal, if I remember correctly. Canyon Dev.
Yeah, Canyon Dev definitely solid ride last week, and definitely deserved a mention out there, as they went head to head with Tour 2K as well. So definitely watch out for them. This is the team I'm watching. They only have 4 on course, but their elite squad only had 4 on course as well, and dominated in the TTT yesterday in the premiere. So they might just know what they're doing and make this happen regardless of the lack of extra bodies out there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a black magic element to team time trialing, or just understanding how to keep the team moving along fastest. But if they have, this is not the moment, their greatest moment out there, 3 out 25K today, a little bit of a gap opening up. So let's see how quickly they can fix this problem here. We want to get on top of these things before they get completely out of control. And that's where a team captain would come into play. We've talked a lot about communication being critical. It goes without saying. I mean, I can't imagine there's any workplace or sporting environment where communication is frowned upon. That's for sure. There must be some good example of that, but maybe mime school or something. But outside of that, communication is critical. This team's going to get it back together, though. You can see they did a really, really good job. We talk a lot about technique out here, and the name of the game. See, and this is the problem. Then slight overcorrections.
I don't think. No, I think this is on purpose. I think they've cracked the code, and these. I might be wrong, but the speed that they're coming through with there. Now it needs to continue, though. It can't slow down. And we'll see if it continues. And Drugman's come through now, 6 watts per kilogram. They have not slowed down, really. They have been almost over 50 kilometers per hour the entire time.
All right. So, again, watching a team that's in the hunt here. keeping that speed up close to 50 kilometers per hour. Super, super impressive at this point. Let's go ahead and take a look at these splits here. At 12K, an outstanding ride from INC Penetrator. So not done yet, but this is a really good sign if you're an INC fan. 14:53 at 12K. It's going to be Team Tour 2000 Callis with a 15:13. We look at, let's see here. Okay, so
Just
now we're
coming
starting
through.
to look at splits coming in. Exactly. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, they're just coming through at that 18K mark. We can adjust it to look at the 12 real quickly here. We'll go ahead and do that very quickly. This is the 12K, and it was Innovation Penetrator there, followed up by Team Tour 2K, and then Plastic Cockneys actually with the 15:19 just coming in as they have 11K to go. So they must have been one of the last to get out on course. WTRL Skyrocket still with 12.3 kilometers to go, just a little ways behind there. Team Experimental is still out on course as well. We can actually jump on over to them and see how things are playing out, because we actually have for this team, it's going to be Kim Little, former UK national champion, out on course actually. So we'll see what he can pull off. He said he was making a slow and steady return to Zwift racing, so good to see Kim Little out on course hammering away. Herod here as well as Phil Pierce, so they're still all together. Team Experimental in-game kit, as you can see, one of the longest standing in-game kits. It's good to see them back out. It's the Experimental versus KISS Racing Team is one of the longest standing battles that have been out there, and KRT and Team Experimental back out in the world. On the women's side of things, mainly for KRT, we've seen a big presence. Obviously, Illy Gardner, first week, dominating over and over again. Team Experimental now, as you can see, back out here. They're sitting in a top 6 situation right now.
Zach Harrod, a nice pickup for that team. A rider who really did his work. Kim Little, again, a fantastic ride here, as they are going to put up a time that will be more than respectable out here today. And I love seeing Zach on this team. He's a young, another one of the U23 riders like George Mills Keeling that has a tremendous amount of potential. And you'll be hearing more from Zach on this platform in real life racing as well. But this team has got it put together quite nicely here, Nathan. Good job, Team Experimental.
Yeah, currently
a lot of experience on this team.
Fifth place overall. At the 12K. We are waiting for the next updates. I'll go back to the 18K here. This is the current situation. Let's see if I can get this to correct actually for the 12K. For the 18K, is we're trying to make it happen there. I believe that's going to be. It's trying to figure itself out there. I think as we get more to come across the line, it'll give us the correct numbers. There's 22:40, 23:12. That's the current for the 12K in first and second that are out on course currently.
We're kind of in one of those dark side of the moon moments where any data you see, if it looks a little weird, just give it a minute, because they're probably working on it right now. There's a lot of things going on. Right now, somewhere in China, there's a server that is about to start on fire, I would think, with the amount of data that's being pushed through it. A lot of meat through the grinder, as they say. So, all right, Nathan, 25K of racing hanging in here with Experimental. I'm glad you did. They're really showing us how to keep that blob style working. Zach Harrod taking some big pulls for the team right now.
Yeah, and 15-minute flat from Innovation Penetrators. Plastic Cockneys 15:20. Team Experimental 15:26 as we continue to get these updates coming on through. 15:11 from Team Tour 2K, so they are currently still sitting in second, I believe. If we did the comparison at that 12K. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. We'll keep on moving around. Naga Bombs is interesting. They're getting caught by Team Experimental. Kim Little seems to have some motivation here on the front. 6.7 watts per kilogram at 45 kilometers per hour. This is one of those main moments here. This circle that they do, this almost large 180-degree turnaround, seems to have pretty good little undulations on it. A lot of climbing on this section. We see a lot of that yellow 4% there. And I have a feeling that taking some solid pulls at 6 to 7 watts per kilogram through this section is very important, as we have Gray now taking over toward the front on that canyon. Looks like the canyon is very popular with riders. Somebody must have done some math somewhere and figured out that this might be the best bike for this kind of a course.
That's what Anna Russell said, and whatever she said goes in my book. So
look at the update. Solid update here. Look at this. We've got Innovation 2226, Tortu Callis 2242, Canyon Dev 2309, and Team Experimental tied. This is a battle right here between Experimental and Canyon Dev right now for that third spot on the podium.
And to be honest, that is the battle, Nathan, right there, that you can sharpen the pencil, because INC is, so no one is running away with anything. These time gaps are not massive, but all things considered, unless the wheels come completely off, these teams don't look like, no one looks like they're riding out of their minds, nor are they having a problem. We're back in with Canyon Dev. This is 1 and 2. So thank you for jumping in with this team, Nathan, because they are in a pitched battle right now for the third spot on the podium, and the coveted points that come along with it is they're going to be looking to hang on to a top spot in the ZRL after our second week of racing here in the community. So Team X, that's Team Experimental, and Canyon, the team that we've got on screen right now, they have locked horns. I'm going to throw it back to you, Nathan. This one is going to come down to that 100th or 10th of a second that we were joking about. The joke is now over. It is as real as it could possibly be. An absolute Donnybrook going on here. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is on like Donkey Kong.
Did you see how Veles did that? Jugmans did not really slow down on the front there. Now Jugmans has to come through 7 watts per kilogram. They do not want to lose any speed. Now they're getting a little bit of confusion, though, on the front. 3.7. This is not how you want to see that happen. Jugmans has to hold on to his solid effort there. Now Veles comes on through. He's got the power still. It looks like it's going to be Kaminsky, might be the weak link, perhaps. But yeah, no. On the back here, 40 kilometers per hour as Jugmans starts to pull away. They've got to glue it back together here. Tough to do through the jigsaw. 4%. The kicks over and over again. You got to bring that speed over each one of these little undulations here. They're halfway through the jigsaw, one of the most difficult sections, and it is going to be by him here now. 7 watts per kilogram. He cannot slow down, though. He's got to close this now. He does not want his team to have to wait for him. He has to go into orange numbers. There it is. There's the kick. Just get on board, because Kaminsky cannot slow down and wait for you at this point. They're starting to walk away from this teammate here. This is everything. And earlier we said, Dave, it could come down to a 10th of a second. And, you know, with the reality of the way that this is set up with the team structures, I think that's as true as it gets, because 20 points, 19, 18, first, second, and third, that's the difference, is 1 point. And that 1 point could be the difference at the end of the league is, you know, because of the way the team structure is set up, it's not going to be based on time at the end of the day. But if you win by a 10th of a second, that could be your 1 point that wins the league. Everything's on the line right now. Kaminsky having to slow down. Will Team Experimental do a better job through this section is going to be the question.
Yeah, it's not about what your time is. It's about what place you're in at the finish line. And you can see here the yo-yo effect. It is fourth rider here. And this one has been a little bit of a dog's breakfast over the last couple of minutes for the Canyon team. And again, they were sitting in third. This is not a good sign, to tell you the truth. They have dropped now. As we look at the updated API, they've fallen back to fifth place if you look at that 18-kilometer check. So there's a lot going on out here right now. They've got about a kilometer left of racing. Again, not going the way Canyon wanted. I'm going to predict that they don't end up with the bronze medal here watching this.
Yeah, and it's because this monster team here with Howells, Hart, Peck, Hitch,
look at the difference,
are flying out here today.
Okay. And it's critical to note, Nathan, if you want to use this as a teachable moment, right? What you're talking about, they're going through that exact same sector that you just saw Canyon going through, okay? Well, they're just about to get to that point.
Doesn't look disorganized.
In the next half K, look how organized they are, though. Yep. I mean, they're flying. They're over 50K here. Now the pitch goes up a little bit. You'll see this. Now, the real tell is that watch the speed. If it drops under 45, well, that's about what happened to Canyon. And same thing here. It's going to be interesting now. You can show the Canyon wasn't as bad as maybe that looked, but this team right now, Plastic Cockneys, has got 5. They're still motivated. Boy, I think that they will have done enough by the time this one is done and dusted. INC Predator with a outstanding ride today. They should be good for gold with that 22-26 there, but really that's all pretty stale at this point, like last week's bread, because these times now are going to be refreshed with our finishing times. The Plastic Cockneys come in. Nathan Goodward, their monster team, on a great ride. Yeah, look at the difference here. They really, really have put it all together.
Yeah, Plastic Cockneys here hammering away, and they're keeping it together. Now, whether or not they hold on to the entire team is going to be interesting. They've been very consistent, though. You don't see these 7 watt per kilogram kicks. Now, I don't know if that, I'm still, I fully admit, I am still figuring this out for myself as well as to whether or not monster punches on the front, little gaps, help or do not help with gluing it back together. 6 at the front here. They're very consistent and seem to be paying off from what we can see. 2250. They're closing it down to Tour 2K. Tour 2K are done for the day so far. Looks like Innovation still out on course, just about to finish, it looks like. Cockney's now bringing it in, and then Development as well about to bring it in with just half a K to go. Team Experimento, they've been dropped back, it looks like, by 1 second. They may be able to bring that back. Then it's going to be SCR and then AHDR Cake Crushers. Nagamoms there, they've brought back some time as well. So plenty of landscape to work with, though, for RAF. With that 23:48 still to bring back maybe even up into a top 5. There's not a lot. I mean, between all these teams here, we're talking about a little over a minute. I mean, Innovation really walked away with those, as well as Team Tour 2K and Plastic Cockneys. But within that 23-minute mark, though, a lot of teams still in contention.
Yeah, I mean, if we update there, it's only 12 seconds back to second place out here. Again, this is going to be really interesting. I'm predicting that this Plastic Cockneys team has done enough, and they're into the last few hundred meters here. So this is the run into the finish line, the grand finale out here after 25K of racing. Man, did they dig deep. They were in a pitched battle out there with Canyon. It's not over either. We'll see what Canyon can put together. And remembering Zwift Power not having its best moment right now, so we could see some data changes. You never really know. So everything, if I was in ancient Egypt, I wouldn't have the scribes start taking out the chisel and putting it in stone yet. Let's put it that way. This is going to be the Australian Hump Day ride, Cake Crusaders and Traub bringing it home. So nice job, Nathan. We're going to pick them up.
I said Crushers. I was thinking about maybe eating too much cake when I said
cake crushers. Either way, I've heard it both ways. Yeah, I'm on a team called the Cake Crushers, actually. So right, you're giving me a good team name idea, that's for sure. But Nathan, the Australians here, I'm going to guess the Crusaders, not entirely Australian. That's for
South
sure.
Africa,
very international squad. Yeah,
as well as
French
Italy,
rider,
Belgium. So I think we've got one rider, Dawson. That's about it. AHDR though.
Yeah, the Australian Hump Day ride was kind of one of those first touchstone gathering rides from our friends down under on Zwift, Nathan.
Yeah. That is sponsored by Giant. One of was the largest and may still be the largest weekly group ride out on Zwift. So, hundreds, thousands even at times, showing up to the Aussie Hump Day ride, specifically a lot of times in their winter, in the land down under. So HDR, most popular, week in and week out, jump into the Aussie Hump Day ride. That's kind of how it all started. Tim, Searle, by far, I don't think anyone comes near to Tim when it comes to amount of miles, kilometers out on Zwift, world leader, and also the ride leader there with AHDR, running things there over with AHDR. He's got multiple managers at this point, as it's such a large team with this in-game kit with Giant and the HDR team. So hammering away on the Tron bike here. It's going to be Dawson, the lone Australian, but obviously a worldwide movement at this point that is HDR and the Cake Crusaders looking to earn their cake, it looks like, at 5.7 watts per kilogram in the front.
I hate to go on record, but didn't you? Or I don't hate. It's not that I hate to go on record. I'm not 100% sure about this, but isn't he somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 kilometers on Zwift?
I think it's well over that even. I mean,
Is it? If it's over
it's
that, I mean, that's more than twice around the world at the equator.
yeah, it's well over. I believe
That's
Tim has
unreal.
ridden a crazy amount of. I'm gonna find it right now, and we'll figure it out there. I mean, he has almost unsurmountable. You know, for a little while I was competing with
Yeah.
him and Scotty Weiss. I was world leader in the first year or two while I was racing professionally and putting in all of my miles. Out on Zwift, I took a 2-year break from racing professionally, and it's they just kind of like skyrocket away from me, and I was like, okay, I'm
How
done.
did you-
This competition is over.
How did you find that, Nathan, when you went from doing kind of like our friend Matt Heyman when he won Paris-Roubaix, but a little bit different too? So entirely training on Zwift, how was it when you went out and did an in real life race? Did you feel incredibly strong? Was it weird at all?
So what happened was Zwift racing. So I mean, a little bit of bunny trail, but yeah, like the reality of chasing pixels, I called it, that you had a worldwide community, and because of the way that you chase wheels and the way that you're interacting with the game to pull those extra watts of the pedal stroke, it felt like chasing down those avatars to find that wheel, find that draft at the most painful moments that you could over and over and over again. There was something about just not being able to be dropped. I got out into the race course, and I might have suffered extra in certain ways because I wasn't working certain muscles or working, but my engine, the engine that was built at that high end, that high octane attack modes, I could always come back to a wheel. I could always just kind of outlast the rest. And then when it came to the last lap in a mountain bike race, I just said I had more in the tank and kind of just rode away. And that was early season. Then that fitness later season turned into where I could attack. But early season, I couldn't attack actually in the same way. But I could hang on to any move. I could hang on to any move no matter what. It was a different way of racing that I found that was in me because of that. So as we do have
we're going to
HDR
bring them
here,
on home.
Cake now. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, let's bring them across the line there as they finish up. I'm going to say sub 32 Australian hump day ride. Cake Crusaders, awesome job. That's Vitoni we were in with. I'm hearing from fan Brian White that it's more like 140,000 kilometers now for our man. So that's that we'll put a bow on that. What a great day of racing. We're going to go in now with Team Italy 1. Yeah.
Solid competition with Team Italy and RAF here for a top 10 right now. Both at that 23:48, only 2 seconds off of the in real life, the Ireland Niga bombs there. So this is a competition for those top 8 situation, even into the maybe 23:40 with the K Crusaders. Maybe a little bit too far there with that 23:13 though for SC. So I think SC is going to hold that down with that. But well, you don't know. These are not.
Look at that. Oh, sorry, Nathan. Didn't mean
Just
to
saying
jump on you there.
They're not final results, obviously, as it's just the check marks. So a lot can happen in 6K.
Yeah, for me, the most interesting thing would be team experimental. And again, not final results. So this is, not done yet, but it's going to be super close once they run all the numbers between team experimental and Canyon development squad there. It looks like the Cockneys should be good for third. Great ride by the Plastic Cockneys. They earned that. They've been doing their homework out there. Casuala, Team Italy 1, the squad we're in with now. They're inside the final K of racing. And they're going to want to just stall the beans for a moment, or stall the pasta for a moment there. Make sure we get that fourth rider across the line.
Names right here. This is good to see. James Hodges, Toby McTobeface, Werner Fingers in here. We're seeing C King with all from the KISS Racing team. I was talking about Team Experimental versus KISS Racing team. Now, doesn't look like they made a top 10 out here, but solid effort here, and good to see them back out on course and hammering away. KISS Racing team, I believe they were one of the last seeds out on course here today, so they'll bring us home in the men's West as Hodges 5.4 here sitting in. Now we do see it looks like Dave. I think you might mute.
Sorry
your
there,
mic,
Nathan.
perhaps.
And when
Go
you're
ahead.
in the battle for the win, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. When you're in the battle for the win, this is the toughest part of the course. Now, you don't dig any deeper than the last half K, Nathan.
No, you don't. Looks like Armini not needed in this lead-in. 4 across the line. Toby, 9 watts per kilogram. Big kick coming from him. Hodges looking to hang on, almost dropping off. It is the 4th across the line. Hodges up and out of the saddle. One last kick, and it looks like he's going to have orange numbers there. He's always got a little bit of a sprint in the legs, it looks like.
So
trying
strong.
to hang on, and it's going to happen looks like at about a 32-minute gap or so. And
You don't see that often. Guy going from 4th rider to being the 1st rider across the line. That's one of our legend as well, James Hodges there. Good job by the KRT team.
I'm going to take a quick look here. I believe we've got results coming on in. This was the women's race. And I'll leave that. Go ahead, Dave. I'm going to look around for a few more riders for us.
Now take a look at these time gaps, folks. Only one team was within a minute of Socks for Watts. WTF, Watt TF is a 33.58 for the win. World-class ride, ladies. Aeonian delivers a silver medal. They just get better and better. 22 seconds back. So then you have the SWW Vouv Clicquot team at 102. That's good for 3rd and taking the bronze medal. The chocolate medal for 4th place going to BRT, the Atomic Kittens, riding out of their minds out there today. 147 back. Socks for Watts, the pizza party. Well, it was a Watt party. 156 back from the Monster A team, and they end up in 5th. Socks for Watts, the Polka Dot Bombs, represented quite well. 204 back in 6th. And then you've got Z-Sun Rise. They'll take 7th. The Vikings Valkyrie in 8th. WTRL Firestorm. Fun being on board with that team today. They'll take 9th. And then rounding out your top 10, it's the Australian Hump Day Ride ladies. Arctic Rollers, 247 back. It was a battle royale. Congratulations again to Socks for Watts. WTF. We'll move into, I'll throw it to you, Nathan, for the bees.
Yeah, it's going to be the bees here. Socks for Watts, SBR Cake. 3.7 watts per kilogram average, 37.23. SWW Bollinger coming through, 115 back. There's a battle for 3rd, but not going to be happening for HDR. Bells on Bikes, but they were holding down for 3rd. WTRL Watts up, 144 back from that top time. Socks for Watts Geometric Try for 5th place, and then BSBR Babes coming on in for 6th. And as we go through, I believe that's going to be all of the categories out there for the women. Now, I do want to give everybody an update. I know earlier we had a little bit of an issue on the men's East for Group 2. We are leaving for now. Belgian Zwift riders, from what I'm being told, are going to be removed from results for an incorrect tag. So there is one team that is not listed here. So Belgian Zwift riders are not a part of this. It will be on screen. Apologies on that. We cannot change it currently. Vision here, 1st place. Kirchberg for 2nd. DZR coming in 3rd. Vikings Ragnar for 4th. Mighty Mallards there for 5th. Cryogen coming in for 6th. And then it will be Wahoo Lacole for 7th. Dolphin Triathlon for 8th. And Innovation Alien Resurrection for 9th. Just as a heads up to everybody, that was the situation. There you go, Dave, for the B.
All right, we'll pick it up with the Vikings, the gold standard, 4.3 watts per kilo to put it in the bank for the Vikings Gleipnir. Silver medal going to SC Mimer, and bronze for R3R ACDC. 4th place for PETA Z3. It's going to be 2 guys, Z Montechinho in 5th. Cryogen Glandon in 6th. Poudre Beaujolais in 7th. Kirkmeyer, the Dragon Bees, in 8th. Vegan Badgers 9th. And then Dolphin Triathlon B rounding out our top 10 Group 2 Bs.
I believe that is going to be it. Does look like we have one Group D. But he did 4.5 watts per kilogram with 7 riders there in the D. So 32.56, solid result there. I'm not sure if maybe jumped in the wrong pen there perhaps. But let's see if we got a few.
That's the new D standard. I don't want anything to do with that.
That's the new D standard. Watch out. Watch out, D's. It's out
No,
of
thank you.
control. It's out of control. I'm just gonna double check, make sure here real quick before we we don't want to take off too early. We definitely, it is about supporting as much of the community as we possibly can out here. And there's always we say it a lot, but there's a lot going on. Looking through, we do have a couple of riders still on course. EMR, Haas Race Team, as well as LD Badgers and SRAM CCB. They're still out on course in the West for the European. And I believe there's also Rowan King Jedi were out there as well, but I believe they've finished up for the day. So still lots of the data is slowed down essentially is from what I'm being told. It's ticking along. It's coming in correctly mainly, but it's just kind of slowed down at this point with so many. I mean, everybody's heading over to Zwift Power, reload, as well as tons and tons of results coming on through, Dave. So, like you said, it's a good problem to have. As long as we resolve it, hopefully by next week, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like I'm ticking down as well. We've done 2.5 hours of live broadcasts with no commercial interruption. This was absolutely a blast. If you think about it, Nathan, where else do we get to have 6,000 athletes week after week competing? And the notable thing here, if you want to do some data crunching, well, the teams that did well last week did not shine this week. We've really completely found a league that's going to find the best overall teams, and team time trialing, a discipline that I don't think too many people thought a couple years ago that there'd be this new renewed interest. Thank you to WTRL, thank you to Zwift, and thank you to every single racer out there. You're the gladiators of Zwift.
Yeah, and then as a heads up with that, these first 2 weeks, just so everyone knows, this is the pooling, and then it's going to get divided out into who's the most competitive to have riders of like results against each other. So we're going to tier out all the pools into divisions. So the top tier teams in each of these zones are going to get into the top divisions. Right? And it's going to kind of tier out to the bottom of the division. The bottom divisions then, very competitive racing is going to end up coming out of that. So be on the watch out for that. And at that point, we will have leaderboards for the league. So next week, leaderboards for the league for who is leading where, how, and why. You'll start seeing that coming in as of next week. So we don't have that at this point. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We have America's East followed up by America's West coming at you later tonight. Make sure to tune in for that. If you want to know when we're going live, make sure to head on over to if you're watching, hit the follow button. And you can find it over on YouTube. They're all scheduled and ready to go. I'm Nathan Guerra, Dave Towle. We'll see you in just a couple hours. As always, everybody, ride on.